Chapter 124. Thinking of a solution. Zhang Xian was on the verge of tears. He thought that these things would cost a maximum of a few 100,000 gold coins. With that fortune of 1,000,000 gold coin that he possessed, spending a little slight amount more didn't mean much. Anyway, he didn't really work for the money. Yet, never in his dreams did he expect that the cost would total more than 20 million. He prided himself on his wealth, but before such an outstanding sum, he wouldn't have enough money even if his wealth multiplied several-fold. What kind of damn situation was this? Initially, he was determined to awaken their bloodlines to make up for their weaknesses, thus causing their fighting prowess to soar. They would be able to astonish everyone with their strength at the freshman tournament, and at the same time, Zhang Xian would gain the image of an expert who cared not for money. Yet, never in his dreams did he expect that he would have to spend so much. This was too much. If he knew that he would need that much money earlier, he wouldn't have tried to act cool from the start. Why don't I just forget it? Suppressing his bleeding heart, Zhang Xian was conflicted. He was far from the required sum, so he definitely couldn't buy these items. Yet, all of the effort he had put into this, taking the apprentice apothecary and full apothecary examination, was for these items. Could he allow it all to end in vain? Accomplishing nothing at all in the end? Furthermore, he had already bragged about it. Zhao Ye and the others knew that he was trying to look for ways to awaken their constitution. If he were to return empty-handed, how could he lift his head in front of them in the future? No, giving up just because it's too expensive isn't my way of doing things. If he truly gave up on these items, Zhao Ye and the others wouldn't be able to awaken their constitutions and it would merely be a dream to triumph over Lu Sun 14 days later. A transcender should not give up before even trying. Furthermore, as Zhao Ye and the others' teacher, the one to point out their path for them, his sense of responsibility would not allow him to simply sit idly by. Even though he had just become a teacher, he had chosen to take on the responsibilities that a teacher ought to shoulder. If he didn't have enough money, he could just look for ways to earn more. At this point, Zhang Xian walked back up to him. Looking at Ouyang Cheng, he asked, cough cough, guild leader Ouyang. Is it possible for me to put those items on my tab first? I will find ways to repay this debt to you in the future. It can't be done. Guild leader Ouyang shook his head. None of those in our branch can forge grade 3 pilsel, so we need to purchase it from the headquarters. As a result, I can't delay the payment for you. But, 20 million, I won't be able to take it out within a short period of time. Zhang Xian shook his head. There's no way around it. How about, you try to learn how to forge pills first? Given your knowledge in the field, there should be a lot of ways for you to earn money, Ouyang Cheng advised. The young man before him had knowledge that surpassed that of all of the apothecaries in the entire branch. If he were to forge pills personally, even though 20 million might sound fearsome, for a high-level apothecary, it truly wasn't a huge sum. One can earn a lot of money from forging pills. That meridian soothing pill that you all forged previously, how much could one be sold for? Zhang Xian couldn't help asking. The meridian soothing pill isn't easy to forge. And as such, it's one of the more profitable pills among grade 1 pills. A single pill should be able to sell for 50,000 or so. If you forge 10 in a day, you will earn 20 million in less than 2 months. Guild leader Ouyang asserted. Apothecary was an extremely lucrative profession. However, it depended highly on the market conditions and whether the supply of medicinal herb could keep up with production. Even though it was possible theoretically, even official apothecaries would find it difficult to forge pills every single day. 2 months. Despair streaked across Zhang Xian's face. In 2 months' time, the freshman tournament would have concluded and everything would be over. If that's the case, he might as well work on their strength the conventional way. There was no point in him exerting so much effort here. Besides, the reason why his theoretical ability was that impressive was because of the Library of Heaven's path. If he were to forge pills personally, it wasn't a feasible plan. Even though every single word of his was profound and logical, if he were to do it personally, he couldn't even complete the very first step of extracting essence from the medicinal herbs. He had seen the others forging pills previously, and without several dozen years of training and refining his skill, it was impossible for him to get to their level of expertise. Is there any other better way of earning money? He couldn't help but ask for an alternative method. Better way of earning money? Guild leader Ouyang shook his head. Just when he was about to shoot down the possibility, a thought popped into his mind. The most lucrative occupation in this world is, without a doubt, master teacher. They can earn a hefty fee just by offering some guidance to others. Apothecaries aren't that bad either, but when compared to master teachers, there is still a huge gap between the two. There were many occupations in the job. Appraisers and apothecaries could be considered as some of the more lucrative ones, but they still paled in comparison to master teachers. Cultivators often find themselves reaching a bottleneck in their cultivation, unable to break through even till their last breath. However, a single pointer by a master teacher could possibly be the key for them to reach higher realms. With a rise in the cultivation realm, not only would their lifespan increase, their ability to earn money also quickened. As such, most people were willing to dump all of their fortune just for a single pointer from a master teacher. Indubitably, master teacher was the most lucrative job in the world, unmatched by any other occupation. However, it wasn't easy for one to become a master teacher. One had to have students of their own, teaching experience, reputation, and on top of that, one had to go through numerous trials as well. For example, Zhang Xian with his Library of Heaven's Path was able to easily solve many problems. However, without students of his own, he couldn't take the master teacher examination. Can you pay in my stead first? I will search for a way to pay you within 10 days. As Zhang Xian said this, a bold idea emerged in his mind. All right. Ouyang Cheng was oblivious to his thoughts. However, seeing the grim look on his face, he didn't seem as though he was joking. So he nodded his head. I will be leaving first. After which, Zhang Xian walked out. Since master teachers were good at earning money, if I pretend I am a master teacher, would I be able to earn money swiftly? At this point, Zhang Xian started to analyze the pros and cons of the bold thought he just had. Using ordinary methods, it was impossible to earn 20 million gold coins in 10 days unless one robbed a bank. However, if he pretended to be a master teacher, there might be a possibility of him earning the sum within the duration. If someone tried to sew and were exposed, it was highly likely for that person to be beaten to death on the spot. After all, a master teacher possessed vast knowledge, and it would be easy to give himself away, especially when he said something flawed. However, Zhang Xian was different. With the Library of Heaven's Path and his ability to hoodwink others he gained in his previous life, it was truly a simple feat to scam others. Of course, it wasn't really considered as a scam. After all, with the Library of Heaven's Path and his Heaven's Path divine art, he could see the flaws in others. Raising their cultivation realm would be something easy and pleasant. Alright, I shall do it that way. After analyzing the situation, he felt that he could do it and nodded his head in satisfaction. If he wanted to help Xiaoye and the others to grow stronger and win the bet he had with Lu Sun, those few items were a must. As such, he had to earn that sum of money. This was the only way to earn 20 million within 10 days. I have to prepare some things in advance. Given my current age, no one will believe me if I go around shouting that I'm a master teacher. I need to disguise myself. At the very least, I should look 30. Master teachers were just like apothecaries. If you said you were a master teacher when you didn't even look 20, you would probably drown in the other party's spit before you could even finish your words. No matter what, he had to disguise himself and alter his facial features. Otherwise, putting aside the fact that it would be difficult for him to induce trust in others, this might also bring him endless trouble in the future. Next, as a master teacher, I would need to uphold my own identity and reputation. I can't possibly run to the house of others and offer to give them guidance. If so, they would just think of me as a scammer. He lived in the information age previously, and even though he had not done such things in the past, he knew a thing or two about it from the news. Given the esteemed position master teachers had in this world, it wasn't practical for him to run to other people's house to offer them pointers and demand money from them in return. What should I do? Since he couldn't run to others to offer his services, how could he look for clients? Without clients, how could he make money? Zhang Xian frowned. Chapter 125, Renting a Mansion. Right, I should first look for a residence. As long as I can build a reputation, people would definitely come scrambling to me this way. I can avoid knocking on the doors and retain my dignity as an expert, while earning money. An idea popped into his head. As a master teacher, one had to uphold his stature. He couldn't simply go around visiting houses. As such, he could only lie in wait for willing prey to take the bait. As long as someone were to come knocking, he was confident of subduing them with his hoodwinking prowess and library of heaven's path. Yup, I should first look for a base of operation. After contemplating carefully, he realized that this was indeed the best way to go about it. With a snap of his fingers, Zhang Xian made up his mind. He would do it this way. With a concrete idea in his mind, he didn't dawdle and immediately proceeded to the reception to purchase pills and medicinal solutions that could change one's outer appearance and skin color. Even though he didn't really know disguise techniques, as a member of modern civilization, he still had some basic knowledge regarding makeup. Using those pills and medicinal solution, it didn't take long for him to transform from a young lad below 20 years old into a yellowish, middle-aged man that possessed a dignified gaze. After staring into the mirror for a long period of time, he ascertained that there were no problems with his disguise and nodded his head in satisfaction. After which, he walked out of the apothecary guild. In order to convince others, I need to be dressed in luxurious clothes. Clothes make the man. Given his current dress-up, many would believe him if he claimed to be a beggar. He needed to look the image if he wanted people to believe that he was a master teacher. There is a clothing store right ahead. With such a thought in his mind, he noticed a clothing store that was nearby and entered. When he finally exited, he had already transformed into a totally different person. With a brocade hat and marten coat, he was dressed extravagantly. It was clear from his appearance that he was a person of noble standing. These clothes cost him a total of 20,000 gold coins. He could feel his heart bleeding. I should just treat it as an investment. Consoling himself, he walked along the street. An hour later, he arrived at Tianyu Commercial City once more. It was already late in the afternoon and the sun was about to set. Knowing that he was lacking time, Zhang Xian proceeded forward in large strides. He knew that it was impossible to find accommodation in a short period of time single-handedly. However, Tianyu Commercial City was reputed for selling everything possible under the sun. Thus, it was guaranteed that there was information on this aspect available as well. Furthermore, he didn't need to purchase an accommodation, it was sufficient for him to just rent one. As he had already been here before, he had become quite familiar with the surroundings. After strolling around, he soon caught sight of a realtor agent center. "Old master, are you here to buy a house?" Upon noticing his entry, a plump boss stepped forward immediately to welcome him. "Old master." Zhang Xian was taken aback for a moment before coming to a realization. He had already modified his appearance at current, he looked like he was in his 40s. He was no longer a young lad. Thus, he nodded his head and placed both hands behind his back, assuming a disposition befitting that of an old master. He deepened his voice, making him seem more mature. "I want to rent a mansion." "Mansion?" "Old master, your decision to visit us to rent a mansion is a wise one." The boss's eyes gleamed. Those who were able to rent out mansions were all wealthy men. Just by raising the rent by a slight amount, these landlords would be able to earn a huge sum. "Old master, may I know what your requirements?" As though he saw a fat lamb before him that was waiting to be butchered, the boss asked excitedly. "It must be clean, large and has the best location." It would be perfect if the renovations are in place so that I can move in immediately. Zhang Xian said. This, upon hearing the other party's request, the eyes of the boss twinkled and he almost leaped in joy. No doubt about it, this was a huge lamb for him. Putting aside all other factors, just the requirements Zhang Xian stated had made it impossible for the mansion to be inexpensive. How could someone who wanted to rent a mansion like that be poor? He was so happy that he almost squealed, but he acted as though he was troubled. Old master, we do have such mansions, but the cost of the rent would be slightly pricey. By saying so first, the plump man would be able to demand a higher price later on. Price isn't a problem. Zhang Xian gestured haughtily. Right now, he was a master teacher. It would truly be embarrassing if he were to squabble over the measly sum of money. All right then, I will bring old master to look at mansions until you find one that is to your liking. Upon hearing such impressive words from the other party, the bosses smiled so wide that it was about to reach his ears. Without any hesitation, he closed the shop and led the way, holding a bunch of keys. Zhang Xian followed behind him. Soon, they arrived at a vast mansion. This is a mansion a rich businessman bought last year. However, he died last year and his son indulged in prostitutes and gambling. As a result, he had no choice but to put this mansion up for sale or rent. This mansion is newly renovated and its location is good as well. Do you want to take a look? Stopping before the mansion, the boss looked at Zhang Xian to gauge his reaction. This mansion was the largest and most luxurious one of their realtor center. Regardless of whether it was the location or the size, there was nothing one could find faults with. Thus, he brought the other party here at first time's notice for him to take a look. He would only bring him to the other mansions if it was unsuitable. If the other party were to lay his sights upon this one, he would have truly struck it rich. Let's enter to take a look. Zhang Xian didn't say anything excessive. Since he wanted to impersonate a master teacher, his residence had to have class. It mustn't be too small. As for the money Zhang Xian had to spend, it wasn't really a problem. Great. Upon observing how the other party didn't decline, the boss smiled and hurriedly opened the doors. It was a Wujin courtyard. There were man-made mountains and ponds. Not only was it large and spacious, there were all kinds of plants planted around the entire mansion. Upon entering, one would be surrounded by greenery and the fragrance of flowers, inducing a feeling of ease. Not bad. After taking a look, Zhang Xian nodded his head secretly. This mansion was exactly as he imagined. He could simply take his baggage and move in at this very moment. Everything he needed was present and he didn't have to go the extra mile to prepare anything. Furthermore, it was close to Hengtian Academy, just a 10-minute walk away. After his lessons, he could head straight back here, not having to spend much time traveling to and fro. This will do. How much is the rent? Fancying the residence, Zhang Xian gestured majestically and got straight to the point. This is the most luxurious mansion in our realtor center. If old master wishes to rent it, it would be 150,000 gold coins every month. The boss hurriedly said. 150,000? Zhang Xian frowned. He wasn't sure about the property market in this world, but 150,000 a month to rent a mansion seemed way too expensive. Who? Without saying anything, Zhang Xian suddenly clawed at the boss before him. Old master, what do you intend to do? Hearing the sound of his fingernails tearing through air, the boss was terrified and cowered backward immediately. With just a movement, his level of cultivation was revealed, Fighter 3 Danjinchi Pinnacle. His cultivation realm wasn't high. Oh, I just want to see your level of cultivation. Zhang Xian retracted his palm and placed behind his back. Then, looking at the other party again, his eyes narrowed. You said that you will rent this mansion to me at 150,000 a month? Tripling the rent of 50,000 a month, do you take me for a fool? Chapter 126, I am a master teacher, cough cough. Upon hearing those words, the boss's expression changed. He let out a laughter and replied immediately, "Old master, what are you talking about? This is a Wujin courtyard mansion and has such a prime location. 150,000 a month is truly not inexpensive. The corners of Zhang Xian's lips crept upward. The original owner of the mansion is called Du Qiao and he is indeed a merchant. However, he isn't dead yet. Due to encountering bandits, a huge blow was dealt to his business and thus, he decided to sell this mansion. However, he was unable to find a buyer so he decided to lease it out instead. According to your agreement with him, it should be 50,000 every month and you will be entitled to a 15% commission yet, you are offering me 150,000 now, isn't your appetite a little too big? Old master, you, upon hearing his words, the boss staggered backward. Are you for real? The contract on this house signed between Du Qiao and him was exactly as Zhang Xian said, 50,000 a month, just that this was supposed to be confidential. They didn't tell any outsiders when signing the contract, so how could this fellow be aware? Why? Do you wish to deny it? Zhang Xian stared at him calmly. The contract was signed 3 months ago at Emerald Pavilion, and the one who accompanied by your side then was the top hostess, Cui Ling. The wine you two drank was the crushing waves with 8 years of maturity and the dish you two ate was the ruby rabbit meat. During which, you even had Ming Xian you play a tune. After sealing the deal, both of you happily invited 3 ladies in. Do you need me to recount the events that occurred one by one for you? Ah, the boss looked as though he had seen a ghost and fear surged through him. The words that the other party said were spot on, as though the man was there in person. This is too terrifying. You, who exactly are you? Frightened, the boss trembled. Standing before the other party, he felt as though he had been stripped naked, causing him to feel guilty subconsciously. I am merely a person who wants to rent a place, I just don't wish to be taken advantage of. Zhang Xian's expression was serene. I was overly obsessed with profits. This mansion is exactly as what old master said, it costs 50,000 every month. After the other party revealed so many things about him, the boss was truly frightened. He dared not to fool around and hurriedly admitted his fault. Watching the other party concede, Zhang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. He casually whipped out a stack of bills. Here is 100,000, I will be renting the place for a month. For the excess amount, help me to get some servants. Also during the time I am here, you shall be my butler. No need to speak of 50,000 or 100,000, if you perform well, I will give you however much money you need. You will definitely make more money than running that realtor center of yours. As a master teacher, he couldn't possibly clean such a large mansion personally or do everything by himself. It was necessary to have servants and maids to assist with the chores. The reason why he wanted this fellow to serve as his butler was even simpler. He was good at scamming. To outright offer 3 times the original price, he had the enormous guts. His reason for impersonating a master teacher was to make quick bucks and he desperately required such talents. I will get how much I want. The boss's breathing hastened. His realtor center only earned him 20,000 gold coins or so a year. It was not often that people would come to rent mansions like this, and moreover, it was useless if the other party failed to fall for his exorbitant scams. This is precisely why he felt a surge of excitement upon seeing the bills worth 100,000 gold coins and hearing the other party's offer. The heck! I knew that he was a fat lamb, but I didn't expect for him to be such a massive one. Why? Are you unwilling? No, I am willing. The boss grabbed the bills from Zhang Xian's hands hurriedly. His movement was even faster than when he dodged Zhang Xian's attack earlier. How could he be unwilling when such a good opportunity was presented in his face? I will only be staying in Tianxian City for a period of time. If you serve me well, I will make you sure you earn 10 years' worth of salary within a single month. As for what you should do, I think you should know it better than anyone else. The other party's response did not let him down. Zhang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. Rest assured, old master. I will definitely serve you well. Upon hearing the other party's promise, the plump boss nodded his head vehemently. Zhang Xian responded. It was of utmost importance to balance the carrot and the stick to keep a person loyal. At the very beginning, he exposed all of the other party's secrets, inducing fear in the other party's heart. After which, he offered him massive benefits. It would be queer if the other party was instead unwilling to give in to him. What is your name? Your humble servant's name is Sun Qiang. The boss quickly replied. You can call me Xiao Chang. Xiao Chang. A strange expression appeared on Zhang Xian's face. Yes. Sun Qiang nodded his head. There are some tasks that I will delegate to you right now. Suppressing the urge to call the other party cockroach, Zhang Xian waved his thoughts away and said, Firstly, I want you to find maids and servants for this mansion by tonight. Tomorrow, when I come over, I want to see them here. Secondly, through your connections, I want you to spread the news of me living in this mansion. Say that a passing master teacher, Yang Xian, will be staying here for a short period of time. The more people know of the matter, the better it is. Naturally, he wouldn't use his real name. Yang Xian was a web name that he used in his previous life, thus he casually chose to use it. Master teacher. Taken aback, Sun Qiang lifted his head and stared at the old master doubtfully. I am a master teacher. I am here to look for something. So, it would be best if you could get the news as far as possible. Zhang Xian harumphed. Of the 100,000 I have just given you, there should be a remaining sum after hiring the servants. Do a good job, and I will make sure to reward you greatly. I have taken a look at your cultivation realm and I have noticed that you have been stuck at Jinqi realm pinnacle for over a decade now. It would be a small matter for me to help you break through during the time I am in Tianxian Royal City. Thank you, old master. Sun Qiang quickly kneeled to the floor. It was just as the other party said. He had been stuck at Jinqi realm pinnacle for over a decade, but somehow, he was unable to overcome this boundary. If he were to receive the pointer of a master teacher, Fighter 4 Dan wouldn't be a dream for him. He secretly lifted his head to sneak a peek. The old master whom he had just met with had his hands behind his back as he stood before the background of the setting sun. The faint yellow light that scattered on his body made him resemble an unworldly immortal. Upon this sight, admiration arose instantaneously from the depths of his heart for this old master. At this moment, he was completely convinced that the other party was a master teacher. If he weren't a master teacher, how could he have known about his secret dealings? If he weren't a master teacher, how could he possibly be so rich and generous? However, what that truly convinced the boss were his disposition and his actions. Majesty exuded naturally in every single action of his. In fact, if someone were to claim that the person before him wasn't a master teacher, he would think that the person was lying. Old master, rest assured. I will accomplish this matter perfectly. Sun Qiang was filled with motivation. Master teachers. This is the noblest group of people in the world. Even the emperor of Tianxian Kingdom, Shenjue, has to act respectfully and politely around them. For an ordinary and insignificant figure like him to be able to serve such an incredible figure, it was almost as though the goddess of fortune had blessed him. Go. Upon observing the other party's complete submission, Zhang Xian gestured for him to leave. Yes. Sun Qiang left excitedly. Only after his departure did Zhang Xian relax his body and stretch his back. He sighed. To think that acting like an expert would be so tiring. Xiao Chang is another word for cockroach. Chapter 127, List of Opponents. If someone were to know of Zhang Xian's thoughts, he would probably be tempted to strangle him. You impersonate an expert and find it tiring? Why don't you kill yourself? After Sun Qiang's departure, Zhang Xian didn't remain in the mansion for long. By the time he returned to his dormitory, the sun had already set. Today's morning lessons, the pill debate, and then looking for a base and acting like an expert. He felt exhausted after going through so much today. Initially, he had planned to research content on the next phase after Pishue realm, but unknowingly, he fell asleep right after lying onto his bed. By the time he woke up, it was already morning. Upon entering the classroom, he realized that his students were already present. He took a look at each of their conditions and nodded his head in satisfaction. These students seemed to also know the importance of the freshman tournament, and thus, they were extremely diligent in their training. Even though it was just a single day, they had made significant improvements. After offering them pointers individually, Qiang clarified some doubts they had. Then, just as he was about to end the lesson, he saw a person walking in through the door. Zhang Laoshi, Lu Sun Laoshi challenged you to a teacher evaluation, and this is the name list of students who would be competing with yours. When Zhu Hong delivered the war declaration previously, he was beaten to a pulp by Yuan Tao and the others. The one who came this time is a teacher. Different teachers had different number of students under them. For star teachers like Lu Sun, his students often numbered in the hundreds, and if all of them were to be involved in the duel with Zhang Xian, it wouldn't be fair. Thus, in the teacher evaluation, both teachers would choose a few students to represent them in duels. Zhang Xian had a total of 5 students, so there was no need for him to choose among them. It would do as long as the other party chose 5 students to compete with each of his students. Good. Taking over the name list, Zhang Xian took a look and a bizarre expression appeared on his face immediately. He thought that the other party would choose some of his more highly ranked students, given the number of outstanding students under his tutelage. He didn't expect that the 5 students he chose would have similar rankings to his own students, with the exception of Yuan Tao. The first one on the list is Zhu Hong, who barged into the classroom previously, and the other candidates he chose corresponded to Wang Ying, Zheng Yang, and Lu Yang's rankings, so there aren't huge differences between them. In teacher evaluations, the challenged teacher had the choice of whether to accept or to decline. Once the challenged teacher accepts the challenge, the other party could choose any of the students under his tutelage to compete with him. Theoretically speaking, Lu Sun could send 5 of the top 10 students in the entrance examinations, and it wouldn't be flouting the rules. As such, Zhang Xian had been preparing for such a scenario. He hadn't expected that the other party would send him such a lineup, so he was a little taken aback. Mo Xiao, isn't this fellow? Taking a closer look, a familiar name appeared. Perplexed by the matter, he suddenly heard Lu Yang's voice. Lu Yang had also seen the contents in the name list and felt that something was amiss. Zhang Laoshi, even though the ranks of our opponents in the list are similar to ours, we won't be a match if we were to cross blows. There is something weird, Zhang Xian looked over at him. What can you tell from it? For example, take a look at this Bai Chao. My ranking in the entrance examination is 93rd, whereas he is 90th. There isn't a large difference in our ranking, but this fellow is skilled in punching techniques and his cultivation realm is one small level higher than mine. If we were to talk about fighting prowess, 2 of me wouldn't be an opponent for him. The reason why our rankings are around the same was because he fared too badly for the theoretical examination. Lu Yang pointed to another name, this Du Lei as well, he is skilled in movement techniques. Wang Ying is ranked 67th while he is ranked 69th. It might seem as though he is slightly weaker than Wang Ying, but he possesses incredible speed. His attacks are also vicious and precise. In a one-to-one duel, Wang Ying definitely isn't a match for him. It's true that I am unable to defeat him. Wang Ying's face flushed red and she nodded her head in agreement. Mo Xiao is my friend and I have never defeated him. Zheng Yang started speaking. Just that wasn't Mo Xiao admitted under Wang Chao Laoshi. We signed up for his lessons together, but I failed the examination, not just him. I remember clearly that Bai Chao was under Hong Sun Laoshi and this Du Lei was under Zhu Hong Laoshi. Lu Yang said. What's going on? Zhang Xian stared intently at the teacher who passed him the name list. Oh, Mo Xiao, Bai Chao and Du Lei withdrew from their teacher's tutelage yesterday and acknowledged Lu Laoshi. The teacher nodded his head. I have already sent you the name list and my job is done. Farewell. At this point, the teacher turned around to leave. Acknowledged Lu Laoshe. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Xian immediately understood what was going on. This Lu Sun is truly a bastard. He thought that the other party sending students of similar ranking was an attempt to make this challenge fair. In reality, he had already done his research and analyzed his students thoroughly. Zhu Hong was ranked 4th while Zhao Ye was ranked 7th. There isn't a huge difference in their rankings, but when it comes to fighting, as seen before, if it weren't for Zhang Xian secretly informing her of his Ming men, even 2 Zhao Yas wouldn't be a match for him. The other party must have already known about Wang Ying's injury to Sen Du Lei, who is skilled in movement techniques and possesses superior speed. From the very start, Wang Ying's legs are already her weakness, so how could she keep up with someone with such outstanding speed? Isn't this just becoming a standing punch bag for the other party? Zheng Yang's spear mastery might be excellent, but the other party sent Mo Shao, who is a level higher than him. Lu Yang injured the meridians in his right arms due to training in battle techniques beyond his level, but the other party sent Bai Chao, who is skilled in punching techniques. As for the one who corresponded to Yuan Tao, his name is Kong Jia and he is ranked in the 300s. However, after Lu Yang's brief introduction, Zhang Xian came to a realization immediately. This fellow isn't adept at battle techniques or anything else, but he possesses exceptional offensive ability and was an aggressive fighter. It was ideal to send a person like this to deal with Yuan Tao, who specializes in defense. The heck? In the view of those unaware of the situation, Lu Sun's action of not choosing among his outstanding students and instead, picking those who hold rankings similar to his own was for fairness. But, he was actually choosing opponents that curbed his students. For this, he even took students from other teachers to place them under his tutelage. If Zhang Xian were to train his students in the conventional method, his students would improve, but so would the other parties. To triumph over the other party with half a month of effort is nearly impossible. After all, his 5 students have problems of their own and those problems aren't minor things that can be solved swiftly. That bastard, he is trying to use me as a stepping stone. Zhang Xian's rage flurried. When the other party tried to trample on his dignity previously, he was furious but not to such an extent. After all, as a member of the modern civilization in his previous life, on which days did he not get his face slapped? He was already used to it. But now, the other party is trying to step on his face to reach higher grounds. He wants to attract more attention so as to add to his reputation. Zhang Xian will not allow this to happen. I am not a staircase for you to step on as you please. Neither am I a melon for you to chew off as you please. I will go all out. Within 10 days, I will definitely earn 20 million and obtain the pills and medicinal solutions for them. Zhang Xian clenched his fist tightly. It was his first time getting so furious after transcending over. Slapping my face. I can still endure it. But to step on my face to reach higher grounds? Dream on. In the past, he thought that he was on the losing end spending so much money to buy those items for his students. In his mind, no matter what, he had to get the money back from his students. However, from the look of it now, it wasn't his loss. This isn't just for his students, this is for him as well. Lu Sun, just you wait. You might be gleeful now, but you will be in for a rain of tears later on. In another classroom, Lu Sun sneezed. He rubbed his nose as he muttered, "Is someone thinking of me?" Chapter 128. No one is coming after instructing them to cultivate their personalized cultivation techniques properly and informing them he might be out for a few days. Zhang Xian left the academy. He found a remote alley, and when he emerged on the streets once more, he had already transformed into master teacher Yang Xian. There were still 14 days before the start of the freshman tournament and he has to make every second count. In just a moment's time, he was already approaching the mansion. Before walking up, he could already see 2 guards standing gallantly by the door. Their strength had already reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm. Not bad, looks impressive. The 2 guards were dressed in uniform. It didn't look extravagant but had a unique style, giving the impression that they were guards of a powerful clan. To be able to hire guards and prepare everything else within such a short period of time, it looks like that Qiang's ability to complete tasks was not bad. Old Master. Upon seeing him walk over, the two guards hesitated for a moment before shouting out in unison. Zhang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. Looks like the butler Qiang had already informed them of his appearance and dressing. Otherwise, it should have been impossible for them to recognize him in one glance. This way, he managed to avoid the awkward situation of being unable to enter one's own home. Upon entering the residence, he realized that the interior was tidied spick and span. The surroundings were filled with flower pots, and upon stepping in, fragrance surrounded him. Old Master! Old Master! The guards and maids drew closer and paid their respects to Zhang Xian. Zhang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction and he walked majestically toward the lounge. Old Master, following your orders, I have already recruited the necessary personnel. There is a total of 30 maids and 5 guards. Even before reaching the lounge, Sun Cheng ran up to welcome him. The glee of one who had successfully completed the missions delegated to him could be seen on his face. He was probably the only person who could gather so many people of quality within this short period of time. Not bad. Zhang Xian complimented. Have you spread the news that I asked you to yesterday? Rest easy, Old Master. I have already spread the word. It won't take long before everyone in Tianxian Royal Kingdom will know that I am serving a master teacher. Sun Cheng looked at him in reverence. He didn't know why his old master wanted to publicize his identity as a master teacher, but he must have his reasons for having him do so. How did you spread it? I made a commotion out of me selling my shop and told everyone in the commercial city that from today onward, I will be a butler at the mansion of a master teacher. The commercial city is filled with many nosy people. I believe that it won't take long for everyone to know of it. Sun Cheng quickly replied. Zhang Xian responded. Indeed, that was the best way to advertise. Not only did it seem not intentional, the news would also spread fast. Of course it would be hard to tell how the results are at this point. Old Master, is there anything else that you need me to do? Seeing that the old master was satisfied with him, excitement flashed across Sun Cheng's eyes as he asked. Nothing else. Zhang Xian pondered for a moment. You should have spent quite a bit of money hiring those maids and guards. Do you still have sufficient money? He only gave 100,000 to his butler. The rent of the mansion took up 50,000 already. In total, 30 maids and 50 guards were hired, so it was likely that the remaining 50,000 wasn't enough. It is more than enough. The moment they heard that they would become the guards and maids of a master teacher, they charged forth to take up the offer. They were willing to accept low wages, some were even willing to work for free. 50,000 is more than enough. Sun Cheng said. At this point, Sun Cheng still found it hard to believe the prestige that a master teacher possessed. There were quite a few people who did not believe that he was truly serving as a butler to a master teacher. Even so, quite a few guards and girls rushed to him and expressed their interests to serve his old master. No other occupation possessed such rallying power. Putting everything else aside, just a casual pointer or two from a master teacher could be equivalent to years of their training. Just this itself was sufficient to cause countless people to go frenzied. Bring me a cup of tea. Knowing that the news is already out, what he had to do now was to wait for people to come knocking. As such, Zhang Xian went into the lounge, sat on a chair and waited patiently. Soon, a maid brought him a cup of tea. This maid is around 16 to 17-year-old and her name is Yuan. She has a beautiful appearance and her eyes are exceptionally bright. Initially, upon seeing Zhang Xian, her movements were a little restrained. However, after realizing that he wasn't a hot-tempered person, she heaved a sigh of relief and ease returned to her actions. Knowing that panicking is futile, Zhang Xian waited quietly for someone to come knocking while sipping on his tea. He waited from morning till afternoon. The sun was about to set but still, no one had come over. There wasn't even a single person who had gathered outside out of curiosity. "Old master, do you need me to hang a sign outside saying that a master teacher is here?" Sun Qiang walked over, appearing very anxious. Zhang Xian was speechless. He would only look like a true expert if someone had learned of the fact unintentionally. "If you hang a sign outside, it would seem as though I am running a business. How can I act as an unworldly expert like that? Furthermore, a master teacher is here. Why does it feel like a dog is on the premises? Please enter with caution. Looks like no one will be visiting today. Let's go out for a walk." Ignoring the words of the other party, Zhang Xian stood up. Even though Sun Qiang had put out word that there is a master teacher here, a large portion of people still chose not to believe it. After all, given the status of a master teacher, there was no way one would come to Tianxian Kingdom and, not to say, live here. Furthermore, even if one were to really live here, he should reside in an extravagant place like the palace. Renting a mansion and hiring you as the butler, you must be dreaming. Go out for a walk. Sun Qiang blinked in surprise. Then what if someone visits in the meantime? He understood that this old master of his was trying to make a reputation for himself within the shortest period of time. After waiting for an entire day, if someone were to come knocking while he was out, wouldn't his effort of having waited the entire day go to vain? Tell the guards to stop everyone at the door. Regardless of who it is, without my permission, they aren't allowed to enter. Zhang Xian said. A master teacher must have dignity befitting of one. Regardless of who it is, even if the person were Emperor Shenjue, he wouldn't be allowed to enter without the master teacher's permission. Yes, Sun Qiang nodded his head vehemently. Let's go. Since waiting is pointless, he might as well go out to look for opportunities himself. After today comes to an end, there will only be 13 days left to the freshman tournament and 9 days for the arrival of the medicines. Time waits for no one. Walking along the street, the crowd moved to and fro by him. The sun was about to set in the west and the sky was dyed with a shade of orange. It was already autumn and the wind that blew felt chilly. Of everyone you know, who is the richest? After taking a few steps, Zhang Xian turned around to ask. Reporting to the old master, it is the boss of Tianyu Commercial City, Lord Ling Tianyu. His wealth is equivalent to that of the national treasury and he is a true billionaire. Deep admiration could be seen in Sun Qiang's eyes. The boss of Tianyu trading firm. Billionaire? Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. He'll be it. His reason for impersonating a master teacher was to earn easy bucks. Naturally, he had to pick out wealthy targets. Where does he live? Coming to a decision, Zhang Xian asked. Reporting to the old master, during this period of time, Lord Ling has been living in his trading firm. Do you want to meet him? Sun Qiang asked doubtfully. Let's go take a look. Zhang Xian nodded his head and with an impressive wave of his arm, the two walked toward Tianyu trading firm. Chapter 129, Southern Green Jade. As usual, Tianyu trading firm was bustling and large streams of customers were flowing in and out continuously. With his hands behind his back, Zhang Xian walked in. Old master, Lord Ling's office is just in front. After walking a distance, Sun Qiang pointed to the front. Zhang Xian lifted his head and an extravagantly decorated lounge appeared before him. There were 2 green jade stone lions standing before the door. They were towering and exuded majesty. The eyes of the stone lions were pitch black and filled with spirit, making the lions seem lifelike. With a single look, one couldn't help but feel intimidated. I've heard that Lord Ling had specially invited a 6mo craftsman to create this pair of stone lions. The material used is the southern green jade, the best jade in Tianxian Kingdom. Furthermore, given that it was crafted by a 6mo craftsman, just a single one of these lions is worth several million. Sun Qiang's eyes glimmered with burning passionate. Many wealthy people place valuable items before their door to showcase their wealth and prestige. At the same time, it serves as an auspicious symbol for fortune to roll in. It seemed that even this Ling Tianyu was unable to escape from this tradition. Several million? Zhang Xian was surprised. Previously, Zhang Xian thought that he could be considered rather wealthy with a single million in his possession. Upon hearing Sun Chang's words, he realized that he was nothing more than a beggar to those who were truly wealthy. Old master, why don't I enter first to report your arrival to Lord Ling so as to have him welcome you? Sun Chang looked over. In his perspective, even though Lord Ling Tianyu's wealth could rival an entire national treasury, his standing was still beneath that of a master teacher. A master teacher was a powerful figure whom even Emperor Shenjue dared not to offend, not to mention that Ling Tianyu, despite his wealth, was only a merchant. There's no need for that. Zhang Xian waved his hands. I will just take a casual look. Strolling slowly, Zhang Xian approached the two towering stone lion and touched it. Cool and smooth to the touch, it was an extremely comfortable sensation. It was clear that it was top-quality jade. His fingers retracted right after contacting it. Zhang Xian continued to view about, touching the objects here and there. Only after a long period of time did he stroll back with his hands held behind his back. Looking at his old master who acted as though a countryside bumpkin who had never seen the world, Sun Chang was filled with doubt. Let's take a seat over there. Ignoring the queer expression the other party gave him, Zhang Xian chuckled softly. There was quite a number of resting spots in Tianyu trading firm. There was one nearby and upon taking a seat, Zhang Xian ordered for a pot of tea. Sun Chang stood by the side, thoroughly confused with the situation. His old master said that he wanted to look for Lord Ling, yet upon arriving, he refused to enter, even stopping him from announcing his arrival. Instead, he chose to sit here to drink tea. What was he up to? Are you curious why I chose not to enter the room to meet the Lord Ling you spoke of? Seeing through his thoughts, Zhang Xian smiled faintly. Your servant dares not to speculate the thoughts of old master. Even though his thoughts were exposed, Sun Chang did not dare to confess to it. There's no need to be nervous, just say whatever that is on your mind. Knowing that the other party was just holding himself back due to his identity as a master teacher, Zhang Xian said. I only find it weird old master is a master teacher, he would not reject you if you were to demand to meet him, Sun Chang couldn't help but say. If I were to reveal my identity, he would not reject me, and he wouldn't dare to either. However, do you believe that even without revealing my identity, I can make him come to me on his own accord? Zhang Xian said. What a joke. Revealing my own identity to meet a merchant is unbefitting of the status of a master teacher. An astonishing impact could only be achieved if the other party willingly ran over and discovered his identity through various speculations. Without revealing your identity? Sun Chang did not think that what Zhang Xian said was possible. That should be impossible. Lord Ling is only a merchant, but given how he is able to open such a huge trading firm, he must have a powerful backing. In fact, nobility and influential figures might not even be able to meet him as they please. How can you possibly meet him without revealing your identity? To be able to open such a huge trading firm in the capital, where every inch of land is equivalent to gold, he must be backed by the royal family. Even though he is only a merchant, he isn't a person that we should underestimate. If he revealed his identity, the other party would definitely come knocking. But without doing so, why would he make an effort to welcome him? If Lord Ling were that carefree, he wouldn't have been able to build this business empire of his. Even though Sun Chang was a shop owner of this commercial city, he knew that his standing wasn't sufficient to earn the Lord's attention. Hee hee. Chuckling softly, Zhang Xian lifted his cup with elegance. Whether you believe me or not, I will make him appear obediently before me today. However, before that, you are to follow my every command, and not to disobey in the slightest. Yes. Upon witnessing the old master's overwhelming confidence, even though Sun Chang remained full of doubts, he couldn't help but nod his head and agree to it. Good. Knock down the head of the stone lion on the left for me. Zhang Xian said. What? Sun Chang staggered, nearly fainting on the spot. He thought that the old master would think of some incredible plan. Yet this? Lord Ling valued the stone lions, which were worth millions, highly. If he were to knock the head off, his head would be knocked off his neck soon after. Old master, I don't want to die yet. Sun Qiang was on the verge of tears. I am here, you won't die that easily. Rest easy. Zhang Xian waved his hands to usher him over. Sun Qiang's mouth twitched. Of course, I won't die that easily, they would get me to pay for it first. How could they let me off so easily by simply just killing me? But even if they didn't kill me, I would be crippled at the very least. Why? You dare to disobey the words of your old master? Zhang Xian frowned and authority exuded from him. He was already used to being a teacher and now coupled with his slightly withered and yellow face, it brought out an imposing disposition. Rest easy, if you knock down the lion's head, I will help you break through Fighter 3 Dan when we get back later. With me here, there won't be any problems. Not only will that Ling Tianyu not blame you, he will even thank you and send you gifts. Knowing that the other party feared that Lord Ling, it was indeed preposterous to have Sun Qiang do such a thing. Thus, Zhang Xian waved his hand majestically and promised him some benefits first. All right. Upon the promise and recalling the fact that his old master is a master teacher, no matter how incredible Lord Ling was, the Lord would probably not dare to be too audacious. After hesitating for another moment longer, Sun Qiang clenched his jaws and hardened his determination. He had been stuck in Fighter 3 Dan for too long. He had tried all kinds of methods but to no avail. He thought that he would never be able to take another step forward. Now that an opportunity had presented itself before him, he would do anything to grab hold of it. That was precisely the reason why he didn't hesitate for long when the other party invited him to be his butler. With the determination of a soldier marching to his death, he turned around and walked over to the stone lion by the left. The Jinqi in Sun Qiang's body surged and a powerful aura gushed out from him. Despite looking plump and weak, he possessed incredible strength. The wind rustled alongside his fist and, with incredible might, he hammered straight across. One couldn't be considered as an expert at Jinqi realm, but he would still possess a strength of 450 kilograms upon reaching pinnacle. Even though this jade lion was made of a resilient material, when the mighty fist landed, it crumbled like fragile glass with a crisp resonance. Kacha! The head of the stone lion that was worth millions fell to the floor and shattered into fragments. Chapter 130, Is your family doing well? The stone lion had been conspicuous from the very start. Upon being smashed, a ring similar to the resonance of a bell echoed in the air, further attracting the attention of countless other people. What happened? Did someone smash the Lord's stone lion? That fellow, is he sick? Lord Ling considers the stone lions as his treasure and caresses them a few times every day. Yet, he dares to smash it. Who is this? He must be tired of living. The crowd which was strolling in the mall was shocked. Before the utterances ceased, an enforcement team on patrol walked over and upon witnessing the situation before him, fell into a state of disbelief. These two stone lions were highly treasured by Lord Ling Tianyu. In addition to the fact that each of them was worth several million, the pair was unique commodity that cannot be found on the market. Yet, this fellow smashed it with his fist. The heck, are you that sick of living? Don't let him get away. Grab him, Lord Ling will reward all those who helped. After a momentary period of shock, the head enforcer shouted. Ayo! Without any hesitation, the crowd, resembling a pack of wolves, rushed to surround Sun Qiang. They pulled up their sleeves and cracked their knuckles. So fast. He didn't expect the enforcers to arrive so quickly. He was blocked before he could return to Old Master's side. Sun Qiang was terrified and his expression changed, saying in a hurry, "Can I explain it?" "Actually, there is nothing to explain, beat him up. Let's talk after pummeling him." After several roars, countless fists came raining down on Sun Qiang. To dare to break the stone lion before their eyes, you must be insane. Looking at the innumerable fists above him, Qiang almost puked a mouthful of blood out of indignance. Old master, didn't you say that it would be all right? So you are a fraudster actually. The enforcers couldn't be blamed for going on a violent frenzy. They were in charge of resolving disputes and protecting the properties and fortunes of the trading firm. The stone lions were Lord Ling's favorite object, yet one of it was destroyed before them. If he were to pursue the matter, they would probably all be fired. It would be abnormal if they weren't angry instead. Zhang Xian, who was sipping on his tea in wait of Sun Chang's return, upon realizing that no one came back after such a long time, turned around to take a look and in an instant, his eyes widened. This was too fast. Shouldn't they have reported to Lord Ling before settling the matter? Why did they start beating him up without first trying to clarify the matter? If I were to head there, I would probably be beaten up as well. His mouth twitched and Zhang Xian sat motionless on the spot. What a joke. Even though he wasn't weak at all, it was impossible for him to handle such a large mob. It was best to pretend to not know him at all. Old master, watching his old master avert his gaze, Sun Chang, who was being frenziedly pummeled on the moment, was on the verge of tears. Old master, didn't you confidently claim that I would be all right? Hold it right there. Just as the patrolling enforcers were getting satisfied hitting Sun Chang, a loud bellow reverberated and a dignified middle-aged man walked over with large strides. Upon reaching the entrance and noticing the stone lion shattered on the floor, the corners of his mouth twitched. It was apparent that his heart ached at the sight. The head of Tianyu trading firm, Ling Tianyu. After the lion was destroyed, someone had rushed to inform him. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to appear that quickly. What happened? Ling Tianyu glanced coldly at the enforcers. Lord Ling, we were patrolling when this arrogant man here destroyed Lord's lion in a single strike. After which, he tried to escape, but we managed to grab hold of him. The head enforcer stepped forward and quickly explained. Him. Killing intent appeared in Ling Tianyu's gaze as he stepped towards Sun Chang. At this point, Sun Chang had already suffered innumerable blows and his clothes were in tatters. It was fortunate that he had managed to protect his face. Sun Chang. Ling Tianyu recognized him and with a cold voice, he said, if you don't give me a good reason, I will dump you into the river to feed the fishes right now. He shivered in fear involuntarily. After hesitating for a moment, he gritted his teeth. It was my old master who made me smash it. Your old master? When did you start serving someone? Ling Tianyu was taken aback. As the boss of a trading firm, he didn't have the leisure to bother about the affairs of insignificant figures. Even though Sun Chang created an uproar when he sold his shop yesterday, it wasn't sufficiently important for someone of his identity to bother himself with. I met my old master yesterday. My old master is the person sitting over there. Sun Chang pointed. Ling Tianyu frowned. Looking over, he saw Zhang Xian sitting with his back faced to them and he was slowly sipping on his tea, indifferent to the commotion going on here. Old master. Upon given a chance to explain that it was his old master who made him do it, Sun Chang heaved a sigh of relief and walked over to Zhang Xian. Were you the one who ordered him to smash my stone lion? Walking over to him, Ling Tianyu frowned and glared coldly at Zhang Xian. As though oblivious to his presence and words, Zhang Xian continued sipping on his tea, clearly disrespecting this Lord Ling audacious. How dare you refuse to answer Lord Ling's words, you are seeking death. To have ordered his subordinate to break Lord's stone lion, this fellow is in for a ride of misfortune. Upon seeing the fellow ignore Lord Ling's question, not even standing up to face him, the enforcers became furious and swore at him. Where did this fellow come from? This wasn't the place for you to be masquerading. To be acting so arrogantly, did you think that we dare not kill you? May I know sir's name? Why did you order your subordinate to smash my stone lion? Ling Tianyu was a worldly person who had seen the world. He waved his arm to stop everyone's criticisms. Sit. Zhang Xian continued to sip on his tea, not even lifting his eyelid to look at Ling Tianyu. Sun Cheng hurriedly ran over to fill an empty teacup. Upon seeing his actions, Ling Tianyu's rage flurried once more and his face darkened to a fearsome point. The other party's actions indicated the level of respect he had for him. He was allowed to drink tea alongside him, but wasn't worthy of having the other party to pour tea for him. He had built this giant Tianyu trading firm from scratch and became a powerful figure in Tianxian Kingdom. Even prime ministers and Wang Ye had to regard him as a peer, not daring to act haughtily before him. To treat a person of his standing in this manner, that fellow was way too arrogant. However, the more it was like that, the harder he tried to suppress his anger. Since the other party dared to do so despite knowing his identity, he must have some background. If he wasn't even able to keep his temper in check, he would have never been able to build Tianyu trading firm to its current size. I wish to hear a rational explanation. His eyes narrowed as he took a seat opposite to him. Zhang Xian remained impassive to his questions and continued drinking his tea calmly, as though the other person's rage was invisible to him. The tea was scalding hot and he sipped on it for an entire minute. Just as the other party was about to lose his patience and Sun Cheng was about to wet himself, did he slowly put down his cup, raise his head and look at Ling Tianyu. He looked to be in his 40s and his pitch-black eyes gave him a dignified disposition. Judging solely by his appearance, it was clear that he was a person who had great achievements. Without saying a word, Zhang Xian gestured to Sun Cheng. "Old master, this person is the head of the trading firm, Lord Ling Tianyu." How could Sun Cheng not understand the meaning behind Zhang Xian's gesture? He quickly stepped forward to introduce the other party. "Oh." Zhang Xian answered. Then, he picked up the teapot and slowly poured tea into the cup. "Ling Tianyu, is your family doing well?" Chapter 131, Master Cheng Yuan Silence. The mall that was bustling just moments ago turned completely silent. Is this for real? Am I hearing things? This fellow not only smashed Lord Ling's stone lion but also cursed his entire family. Isn't he way too daring? Sun Cheng staggered and he was barely able to keep himself from running away. "Old master, you are a master teacher. Are you intentionally trying to do me in? Lord Ling does not know you, so you can simply turn around to leave. However, all of my family members live in Tianxian Kingdom, what did you say?" He had already been suppressing his rage. Upon hearing such words from the other party, Ling Tianyu almost exploded. "We don't know each other, yet you proceeded directly to curse my entire family. This isn't a just provocation anymore but an obvious attempt to insult me, to humiliate me." "Oh. Didn't get my words? Then I'll phrase it in another way then. Are the physical conditions of your family members still alright?" Even though the other party looked as though he was about to explode at any moment, Zhang Xian remained impassive. "There's no need for you to bother about whether my family is doing well or not." A cold gleam flashed through Ling Tianyu's eyes and it appeared that he would burst at any moment. "There's no need for me to bother. I was thinking that saving a life would bring me good karma, but since you don't need it, let's just forget it then." Zhang Xian shook his head. "What do you mean?" "Nothing." Zhang Xian gulped the tea down. Southern green jade is truly a good material. Not only is it beautiful, it can boost one's blood circulation and soothe one's meridians if carried frequently. However, the matter is completely different for southern blood jade. This material devours one's vitality as nourishment to evolve into a jade spirit. Your cultivation has reached Fighter 7 Dan Tongxian Realm primary stage, and given your rich Xinqi and powerful physical body, there's no need for you to fear. However, the same cannot be said about your family. If I'm not wrong, you coming into contact with it daily could bring its aura back home. Most probably, someone at home is already ill down to the bones and is on the verge of death. Alright, Xiao Cheng, let's leave." Finishing his words, Zhang Xian put down his cup, tidied his appearance and stood up. Ignoring the other party, he slowly strolled from the mall with his hands behind him. Sun Cheng hurriedly followed behind him. He looked around in fear that someone would beat him up once more. Sir, please wait a moment. Just when everyone thought that Ling Tianyu would stop that arrogant man to chastise him and teach him a lesson, they witnessed his towering figure tremble faintly as he shouted out hastily. Zhang Xian stopped. Sir, are you saying that the stone lion isn't made of southern green jade but southern blood jade? Yuro's illness is because of this? With a pale face, Ling Tianyu asked. Most people knew that he was a billionaire and even officials had to treat him with respect. However, only he himself knew that after withstanding half a year of undulating anxiety, he was about to collapse. Yuro was his wife. When he was poor and struggling to make a living, this virtuous wife of his would always starve so that he could have another bite, claiming that she had eaten outside. Later, his business gradually grew bigger and his cultivation realm rose rapidly. However, he knew very well that without her, he would be an unwanted pile of bones in the wilderness right now. That was precisely why, despite his fortune, he didn't philander outside and instead, stayed dedicated to this wife who had accompanied him through thick and thin. Yet, the heavens are unpredictable. Half a year ago, she was suddenly afflicted with a severe illness. She could only lie weakly on the bed and now it is possible for her to pass away at any moment. He searched the entire Tianxian kingdom for physicians, even inviting Master Yuan to diagnose her condition. Yet, all of them ended up with the same conclusion, that the illness had penetrated deep into her bones and all she can do is to wait for death. Especially in the past few days, she seemed to be unable to hold on any longer and could really stop breathing at any moment. He had been keeping vigil by her side ever since she fell ill. It was due to important matters to settle at the trading firm that he had no choice but to come. With the issue with his wife, he was already feeling irritable. Upon hearing that a stone lion had been destroyed by someone for no apparent reason, he rushed here in a rage, losing the calm that a successful businessman should possess. He thought that the other party was simply causing trouble. He didn't expect that he would say such words. To be able to tell that his family member is sick, saying that the stone lion is not made of southern green jade but blood jade, your wife should be an ordinary human with a cultivation realm of at maximum fighter 2 Dan, am I right? Zhang Xian said impassively without turning around. How did you know that Yuro is my wife? Furthermore, how do you know her cultivation realm? Ling Tianyu was astonished once more. He had only mentioned Yuro, but the other party knew that she was his wife immediately, even able to point out her cultivation realm instantly. His judgment was simply too accurate. The southern blood jade devours one's vitality to nourish itself, and those who are fighter 2 Dan and below do not possess any resistance against it. If they were to be afflicted with it, their body functions would rapidly deteriorate, hair would turn white, the skin would loosen and speech would become indistinct. They won't be able to live beyond half a year. Zhang Xian said calmly. This, Ling Tianyu's eyes narrowed. The other party's description fitted the symptoms of his wife perfectly. I was just passing by when I saw this thing. In order to prevent it from bringing harm to anyone, I ordered my butler to crush it. If Lord Ling found my action rash and inappropriate, I will have my people send compensation over tomorrow. Zhang Xian waved his hand, unwilling to say any more. His tone was neither happy nor sorrowful, and he didn't seem to be furious due to the other party's misunderstanding. Just that, his tone was bleak. I believe that with Lord Ling's ability, you should be able to find my residence, so I doubt that you need to fear me escaping. At this point, he simply walked away. Old Master, seeing that his old master was leaving right after saying a few words, Sun Chang was dazed for a moment before hurriedly chasing him. Lord, do we need to stop them? Seeing that the two of them were about to disappear into the horizon, the head enforcer walked over and asked. There's no need. Ling Tianyu stood rooted to his spot. His expression changed rapidly, paling in one moment and turning green in the other. It was unclear what went through his head. He was a merchant, unlike the innocent teachers and students Zhang Xian had met before who easily believed in others. After going through innumerable ordeals, he no longer believed in anyone that easily. Even though the middle-aged man who popped out of nowhere was spot on with his words and left him surprised, he didn't charge forward with agitation to stop him. After all, he had consulted many physicians about his wife's illness and it was easy for one to look into the matter. Get Master Cheng Yuan here. Master Cheng Yuan was the appraiser in Tianyu trading firm. Even though he wasn't yet an official appraiser, he was a true high-level apprentice appraiser who was much more capable than a fraud like Yang Mo. Most of the treasures bought by the trading firm had to be appraised by him beforehand. It didn't take long for Master Cheng Yuan to appear. Brother Ling, for you to request for my presence so urgently, is there something wrong? As a high-level apprentice appraiser, even Ling Tianyu could only be considered of equal standing to him. Please help me to check whether this stone lion is made of southern green jade or blood jade. Ling Tianyu pointed to the fragmented stone lion on the floor. I have already appraised it, it is southern green jade. Stroking his beard, Master Cheng Yuan chuckled. Naturally, this sculpture had to have been appraised by him beforehand before it could be brought here. At which, he walked forward and lowered his head to look at the fragments of the stone lion. His eyes instantaneously narrowed and he staggered backward. How is this possible? Chapter 132, The Proud Son Cheng, What's Wrong? Upon seeing the abrupt change in expression on Master Cheng Yuan, Ling Tianyu lowered his head hurriedly to look at the fragmented stone lion as well. At the section where the jade split apart, blood-colored lines could be noticed. Under the reflection of light in the surroundings, it looked exceptionally savage and terrifying. As the lines were within the jade and the southern green jade wasn't transparent, it was impossible to see it without smashing the lion apart. Is it really southern blood jade? His face darkened. Even without Master Cheng Yuan's reply, he knew that it was impossible for this object to be southern green jade. He sent a palm down at the stone lion. Kacha! The remaining body of the stone lion was blown into smithereens and scattered all over the ground. Casually picking up a piece, he saw blood-colored lines on it. It is southern blood jade, my judgment was off. Upon seeing the blood-colored lines densely filling the surface of the jade, Master Cheng Yuan looked as though he had aged 10 years in an instant. He was extremely confident in his discernment abilities. That was precisely the reason why he possessed an exceptional standing in the trading firm, becoming brothers with Ling Tianyu even. Yet, to think that he appraised the largest and most valuable object in the trading firm erroneously. These lines were all concealed within the jade, to the point that one was unable to see it from the outside. Probably even the craftsman sculpting it wasn't aware. It wouldn't be weird for you to appraise it as such. Ling Tianyu didn't blame the other party. Instead, he turned to look at him and asked, right now, I would only like to know if the southern blood jade can really devour one's vitality. I have read about the blood jade in the books and even though I haven't seen it for myself, that was how it was stated in the legends. Master Cheng Yuan nodded his head. So it's real. Ling Tianyu's face paled once more. He lifted his head to look at the head enforcer. Do you know who Sun Chang's old master is? I'm not sure. The head enforcer shook his head. Then, he suddenly recalled something. Oh, right, yesterday, Sun Chang made an uproar while selling his shop and said that he was going to serve a passing master teacher. We all thought that he was bragging and we laughed for quite a while afterward. How could a master teacher possibly allow someone like him to wait on him, master teacher? Ling Tianyu staggered backward. He felt his kneecap weaken and he nearly fell to the ground. At this moment, he felt so regretful that he could knock his head against the wall. The other party was a master teacher. It was no wonder he was able to keep his calm upon seeing him and identify the material as southern blood jade when Master Cheng Yuan wasn't able to, even accurately listing the symptoms of his wife yet. He didn't believe the other party and hesitated to ask him for help. This hesitation had caused him to miss out on a chance in befriending a master teacher and saving his wife. Lord, upon seeing the expression on the Lord, the head enforcer seemed to have come to a realization. His face changed. That old master a moment ago, it can't be that he is a master teacher. He must be. Upon recovering, Ling Tianyu hurriedly commanded, "Hurry up and look into where they are living. Prepare the carriage, I will visit him now." He had missed out on the opportunity once, he couldn't let it pass him by the second time. Yes. Upon hearing that the middle-aged man from before was a master teacher, all of their faces paled from fright. They carried out their orders with great haste. There wasn't a single master in Tianxian Kingdom. Even the guild leader Huang from the teacher guild was only a high-level apprentice master teacher. To think that a master teacher would pass by them and that they would be unable to identify him, even almost attempting to batter him just with such a thought in their mind, cold sweat streamed down their backs and they felt that they could faint any moment. Before leaving yesterday, Sun Qiang had emphasized on where he was going to live, so it wasn't hard for them to find their residence. "Let's go." Knowing the residence of the other party, Ling Tianyu immediately headed out without any hesitation. "Old master, where are we going?" Sun Qiang was drenched in cold sweat walking out of Tianyu trading firm. Only upon seeing no one obstruct their departure did he heave a sigh of relief. After he had finally calmed down, he couldn't help but ask his old master. "We're returning." Zhang Xian waved his hands. "Just like that?" Sun Qiang was perplexed. When the old master first headed out, he said that he wanted to look for Lord Ling. Initially, he thought that he would be discussing something with him. Instead, all they did was to go there, destroy the stone lion that the other party treasured, say a few words and leave. He found the situation a little inconceivable and he was unable to make sense of it. Zhang Xian didn't bother explaining it to him. Their residence wasn't too far away from the trading firm. It didn't take long for them to return. "It's already late and I want to rest. Regardless of who comes over, block them at the door and deny them entry." Upon returning back to his room, Zhang Xian commanded. "Yes." Sun Qiang nodded his head despite having some objections deep within. No one came despite waiting for an entire day. Now that the sun had set, who would come? Departing from Zhang Xian's room, Sun Qiang was about to find a place to treat the wounds from the beating, which he suffered previously, when he saw the guards rushing toward him. "Brother Cheng, there is someone seeking an audience." The guard said. "Seek an audience? Who?" Not expecting that anyone would come knocking, Sun Qiang was taken aback. "It is Lord Ling." The guard replied. "Lord Ling? You mean Ling Tianyu?" Sun Qiang shuddered and almost fell to the ground. When the old master mentioned someone coming over, he didn't take it for real. To think that it would be true, not to mention it was Lord Ling Tianyu whom they just met. Could it be that he could no longer wait and wanted to demand compensation for the stone lions today? "Hurry up and welcome him, I will call old master over." After saying so, he suddenly recalled Zhang Xian's command and his body froze. Wait. Old master had just said that regardless of who it was, block them at the door and deny them entry. It was clear that he knew Lord Ling would come. His intentions were also clear. He refused to meet him. Refusing Lord Ling's audience? If it was on any other occasions, Sun Qiang wouldn't dare to do so even if he had 10 times his guts. In the past, he was always the one crying for an audience, only to be ignored. This time, the other party was taking the initiative to come over to meet his old master should he bring him in or refuse his request. The heck, the worst that could happen was death. Just listen to old master's commands. Gritting his teeth, he came to a decision and said, "I will follow you to the gates." Since he was already beaten up and he had offended the other party, regardless of what intentions the other party had visiting the mansion, he could only obey old master's commands to the very end. Soon, he arrived at the entrance. As expected, he saw the imposing Lord Ling standing at the gates with Master Cheng Yuan behind him. Upon seeing him, the two smiled delightfully. "Brother Sun, may I trouble you to tell your old master that Ling Tianyu seeks an audience?" "Brother Sun?" He had prepared himself to face an angry Ling Tianyu pursuing the matter of the smashed lion and demanding compensation. Never in his dreams did he expect that the other party would treat him with such an amiable attitude. Sun Qiang couldn't help but be dumbfounded. As a small merchant who had a store in the commercial city, he had to live subserviently. Any single enforcer could simply walk up to him and demand money from him. When did he gain the honor of having Ling Tianyu address him as brother Sun? In the past, even if he were to kneel before the other party probably wouldn't spare him an additional glance. In an instant, he felt a surge of heat through his heart, his face turned red and his body felt light as though he were floating in the air. Exultation. Yes, this is exultation. Chapter 133, Shut outside. Seemed like Ling Tianyu became aware of the fact that the old master was a master teacher, that's why he rushed here. As such, his own standing rose as well. However, that was to be expected. After all, he became the butler of a master teacher, a figure whom even the prime minister of the kingdom had to fawn up to. No matter how impressive Ling Tianyu was, he was just a merchant. What was there to fear about him? With such thoughts, all of Sun Chang's fears disappeared. He straightened his back and with a haughty aura, he said, I'm sorry but the old master has already slept. He gave clear orders that he would not meet anyone. My apologies, but Lord Ling has made a wasted trip. Exhilarating. It was simply too exhilarating. All along in the past, he had always spoken to Lord Ling with subservience, not daring to say anything excessive and, less to say, to reject him. Not even to mention, to be able to do it so brazenly and openly. Asleep? The corner of Ling Tianyu's mouth twitched. He had come chasing after them just a short moment after they had left. There was at maximum a 3 to 5 minute delay between them, and he had fallen asleep within such a short period of time. Who were you fooling? Looks like he had really offended this master teacher and that he was infuriated with him. To offend a master teacher, putting aside the fact that he was just a merchant, even Tianxian Kingdom's Emperor Shenjue would be unable to survive his wrath. Besides, his wife is on the verge of death now. Since this master teacher was able to tell the symptoms of her illness without even diagnosing her, he had to have a solution. No matter what, he mustn't give up. Thus, Ling Tianyu began to speak with prudence. My subordinates had acted rashly, causing brother Sun to be wounded. Here is some medicine that is highly effective for healing injuries. These two. I don't mean anything, I just hope that brother Sun can help me convey my request, at which, he retrieved a jade bottle and a stack of notes. Sun Chang didn't attempt to receive the gifts and instead, lowered his head to take a look, squinting his eyes involuntarily. As a merchant, exploring the commercial city was a daily affair and hence, he had a decent eye for goods. The pills inside the jade bottle were called Wound Restoration Pill and it was a truly divine medicine for treating wounds. This was a treasure that only official apothecaries of the Apothecary Guild could forge and every single pill was worth over 10,000 gold coins. Yet, the other party gifted him an entire bottle. Most importantly, the notes in the other party's hands were in denominations of 5,000 and there was a total of 20 to 30 of them. That was to say, just for reporting his presence to the old master, he had made over 100,000 gold coins. The heck? Was there a need to be so generous? However, even though he was astonished, he knew that the reason for the other party's attitude and gifts were out of respect for his old master. It pretty much had nothing to do with him. If he were to accept them and the old master were to get angry, like bubbles, everything would burst and disappear into thin air. As such, he gritted his teeth and replied, I'm sorry, but please show some self-respect. The old master has already personally ordered that he wouldn't meet anyone, so there isn't anything I can do. If the Lord really wants to pay a visit, I think you can try again tomorrow. Suppressing the ache in his heart, he gestured grandly, seemingly contemptuous of the other party's action of trying to bribe him. There was no other way. From today onward, he would be the butler of a master teacher and his standing would be different from what it used to be. As such, he should adopt befitting mannerisms. He must also learn to act suave. If he were to be bribed by this small amount of money and just a few pills, how would the others look upon him? Tomorrow? Ling Tianyu had an awful expression. It was unsure whether his wife could survive through the night. If he were to really wait until the next day, perhaps only a corpse would be left. I plead, brother Sun, to help me. I really have urgent matters to seek your old master. Ling Tianyu took out another stack of bills and pushed it over with an expression full of sincerity. I'm sorry, but there's genuinely nothing I can do. Seeing how much money the other party took out, Sun Cheng found himself on the verge of caving in. Thus, he waved his hand and walked back in, closed the doors. After which, he walked into the courtyard Jia. The doors closed. Brother Sun, Ling Tianyu shouted hurriedly. Even though he was fighter 7 Dan Tongxian realm while the guards were only Pigu realm, he dared not to barge in. Brother Ling, Master Cheng Yuan was at a loss for words. Sigh, it's my fault. If I had stopped the master just now, things wouldn't have ended up like this. Even though the other party shut the doors on him, Ling Tianyu didn't get angry. Instead, he only sighed and shook his head. If anyone were to be blamed, it would be he himself. He insisted on verifying the other party's identity, incurring the displeasure of the master teacher. In a way, he brought this all upon himself. Then, what should we do now? Master Cheng Yuan asked. I'll wait. Even if it takes an entire night, I'll wait. I have already missed the opportunity once, I don't want to miss it a second time. Determination was reflected in Ling Tianyu's eyes. It was precisely because of his will of steel that he was able to become such a powerful tycoon from a nameless poor kid. Besides, if doing this could save his wife, he was willing to wait here as long as it takes for the other party's anger to be appeased. In fact, even if it were Shinjue, the emperor wouldn't utter a single word of complaint if he was hindered at the door. Master teachers had the capability and standing to do so. Did I really just shut the doors on him? Walking into the courtyard, Sun Cheng still felt as though he was dreaming. His entire body felt light. Who was the person outside? Ling Tianyu. Even if he wasn't the richest person in Tianxian Royal City, he wasn't far from it. He was undisputedly a true billionaire. Even a prime minister or powerful official would rush to welcome him when he came to visit, keeping their haughtiness in check. Yet, he kept him outside the doors. Just the thought of it felt unreal. Yet, not only did he do so, the other party didn't even dare to show a hint of dissatisfaction toward his actions. Given how he was able to shut the gates on such a person, did it mean that his position will simply grow higher and higher, eventually becoming an esteemed person in Tianxian Royal City? It seemed like abandoning his store to serve as the butler was the wisest decision that he made in his entire life. This is a true master teacher. At this very moment, every single hint of doubt on his old master's identity vanished. Previously, when the other party said that he was a master teacher, he remained a little doubtful of his identity. However, witnessing how respectful Lord Ling behaved, he understood that it was true. Only a true master teacher had such charisma and means. Aren't you formidable? So what if you're formidable? Before a master teacher, everyone else is trash. Let's go look for old master. After indulging in his glee for a moment, Sun Cheng proceeded toward the main hall once again. He saw that the light inside the room had not been extinguished and the old master sat quietly, yet to turn in for the night. Old master, Ling Tianyu came. Stepping forward, he clasped his hand respectfully. Zhang Xian replied casually, not paying much heed to it. He wants to meet you. After a moment of hesitation, Sun Cheng couldn't resist speaking of the affair. Let's talk tomorrow. If he can't even wait a single night, tell him that he doesn't need to come anymore. Zhang Xian said calmly. After touching the stone lion, he knew that the material wasn't southern green jade and naturally, he knew of its dangers. The Library of Heaven's Path did not display the method to resolving the issue, but it did describe the symptoms an ordinary person would face when their vitality had been sapped by the blood jade. For the time being, his wife was still safe. Since that was the case, it wasn't a big deal for the other party to be waiting outside for a while. With this billionaire waiting outside his mansion, his reputation would soon spread far and wide. He had no choice but to do so to earn 20 million in 9 days. All right. Sun Qiang nodded his head and departed from the room. Chapter 134, The Doubtful Du Yuan. Ignoring Ling Tianyu, who was waiting outside, Zhang Xian continued to work on opening his Pixue realm acupoints. After toiling for the entire night, he opened another 30 acupoints in one go. In total, he had already opened more than 50 acupoints. His Jinqi strength had also reached 70 ding. Along with the 90 ding from his physical body, he could wield up to a total of 160 ding of strength with ease. Putting aside Pixue pinnacle experts, he would be able to match up to even Tongxian realm experts easily. In the Tongxian realm, one opened the most important Tongxian meridian in their body, unleashing the body's true might. At the primary stage, one would possess 100 ding of strength. At the intermediate stage, 200 ding, and in such a manner, reaching the pinnacle of the Tongxian realm, one would possess 400 ding. Currently, Zhang Xian wielded 160 ding of strength in total, which is slightly stronger than a Tongxian realm primary stage. It was unimaginable for a Pixue realm to possess such strength. It would definitely cause an uproar if word were to spread out. Everyone knew that there was an immeasurable difference between the Pixue realm and the Tongxian realm. In the entire Tianxian kingdom, there probably wasn't another person like Zhang Xian. After stretching his back, Zhang Xian pushed open the door and walked out. Old Master, Lord Ling had already been waiting outside for an entire night. Sun Qiang walked over. An entire night? He was so engrossed in training that he forgot about that fellow. Then Zhang Xian tapped his finger on his forehead, seemingly thinking about something. Based on the old master's attitude, Sun Qiang thought that he was going to let Lord Ling in and stared expectantly at him. Then, he heard the indifferent words of the other party, "I think I'll eat first." Sun Qiang staggered and fell to the floor. The head of Tianyu merchant firm, a billionaire, had waited outside an entire night, yet his master wanted to eat first. However, as a subordinate, he dared not criticize his master's actions, quickly getting the servants to prepare the meal. To speak with honesty, the servants and maids hired by Sun Qiang were impressive. They prepared quite a huge spread that also tasted good. After finishing his breakfast, Zhang Xian strolled around the courtyard. Looking at the morning sky and gauging that it had reached 10, he finally got Sun Qiang to open the gates. Du Yuan was the young master of Du clan, which was one of the 4 great clans of the Tianxian kingdom. All along, he had been an unambitious profligate, an incomparable playboy. Usually, all he would do was to walk his dog, play with his birds and hang out in red light districts. He was already 24, but he was only in Fighter 3 Danjinshi realm. Among the scions, he could be considered as trash among the trash. However, it was not because he wanted it to be so, it was because he had no choice on the matter. Initially, his father was the most suitable candidate to become the clan head. However, for some reason, he contracted a major illness a decade ago, causing his meridians to be damaged and his acupoints to be blocked. His prowess plunged from being a Pixue realm expert all the way to a mere cripple. His competitors took advantage of this opportunity and oppressed his successor. Du Yuan had inherited his father's talents, also possessing the lawful rights to vie with the others. However, after a decade of oppression, his father's influence had weakened, and if he were to display his talents at such a moment, he would definitely evoke further acts of repression. Helpless, he could only play the role of an unambitious scion and live aimlessly day after day. When he woke up today, the sun was already hanging high in the skies. Only then did he lead his beloved canine out of the door to linger the streets. Isn't that Lord Ling Tianyu of Tianyu merchant firm? He stopped his footsteps abruptly. A familiar figure had appeared before him. Ling Tianyu was one of the few truly powerful figures in Tianxian royal city, possessing massive wealth, and that very few dared to offend him. Although Du Yuan was a dandy, he still was a member of the 4 great clans. As such, he came into contact with the upper echelons in the city on a regular basis. This Ling Tianyu had an extensive business relationship with his Du clan and he had met him several times. This person was of equal standing to his grandfather, why would he be standing beside the road? Not to mention, he was soaked in dew and looked like a mess. It was as though he hadn't returned for the night. Whose mansion is this? Soon, he noticed what was wrong about the situation. This Lord Ling Tianyu seemed to be waiting outside a mansion for the owner to open his gates. He often loitered on this street and knew this mansion had been empty for a very long time. Besides, even if someone resided within, what kind of identity did he possess to be able to make Lord Ling wait out here? I've heard that Lord Ling had been waiting here since the last night. Indeed, I've seen it for myself as well. It seems like Lord Ling wants to meet the owner of the mansion, but the other party simply ignored him. A butler came out and told him that he could either continue waiting here or to never come back. The heck, are you serious? Who is he? To make Lord Ling Tianyu wait for an entire night. Furthermore, with such arrogance. I've no idea as well, thus, I came here early in the morning to take a look. To think that he really waited for an entire night. Just as he was perplexed over the matter, he heard the conversation that went on from afar. Waited for an entire night? Yuan gasped. Only those who had come into contact with the upper echelons would know exactly how powerful Ling Tianyu was. Although he was a mere businessman, he was well acquainted with the clan heads of the 4 great clans, as well as the nobles and the royal family. Every year, he would donate a substantial sum to the national treasury. Even Emperor Shinzhui treated him as a money tree and dared not to offend him. For a person of such status to wait outside another's gates for an entire night, if he hadn't witnessed it personally, he would have never believed such rumors. Are you for real? Who is the owner of the mansion, to be capable of such incredible feat? Do you all know who the owner of the mansion is? Yuan couldn't help but approach the few chatting onlookers. I've no idea. He seemed to have just moved in yesterday. He caused quite a commotion. Right after moving in, he recruited dozens of guards, servants, and maids. I have seen the owner of the mansion. He seemed to be a middle-aged man in his 40s and his face is slightly yellowed and emaciated. I have never met him previously. A few who knew the details spoke. Middle-aged man. Recruited dozens of guards and servants. Yuan was even more perplexed after listening to their words. Look, the gates are opening. At this moment, the firmly shut gates opened slowly. Jiaya. A plump man walked out. Sun Cheng. Yuan recognized the plump man. This fellow ran a realtor agency in the Tianyu merchant firm. Back then, he visited his agency to look for a residence for his lover. After the other party knew of his identity, he assumed a subservient attitude immediately. He was a typical streetwise vendor. Why is this fellow here? Could he be a servant here? Just as he was pondering, he saw Sun Cheng gesture grandly. Lord Ling, our old master invites you in. His voice was devoid of courtesy, as though he didn't think much of the other party at all. A small vendor of the Tianyu merchant firm actually dared to speak to his big boss like this? Yuan thought that Ling Tianyu would get angry, but contrary to his expectations, not only was he not enraged, gratitude even appeared on his face. He stepped forward and stuffed a bunch of items into the other party's hands. Thank you, brother Sun, for your help. Here are some tokens of my appreciation, hold on to them first. I will definitely send a generous gift in the future. Ah. Yuan's eyeballs were about to fall out of his sockets. The heck, can anyone tell me what was going on? What he had just seen was completely incomprehensible to him. He felt as though the entire world had gone wrong. Chapter 135, Matter of Minutes. I didn't know that Master was trying to offer me guidance and acted inappropriately before you. I seek your forgiveness. Upon entering and noticing Zhang Xian, who was seated at the center of the room, Ling Tianyu felt slightly apprehensive. His attitude towards this master teacher yesterday was indeed inhospitable, even doubting the goodwill the master demonstrated. It was already a blessing that the other party was willing to allow him entry. There's nothing for me to forgive. Zhang Xian waved his hands. I'm not that petty. Sun Chang's eyes widened. You left the other party outside for an entire night to be drenched in dew, only allowing him entry after consuming your breakfast slowly. You call that not being petty? Yes, yes. Ling Tianjiu's face flushed. He was about to continue speaking when Zhang Xian extended out his palm and looked at him calmly. Do you know why I had you wait outside for an entire night? Awkwardness showed on Ling Tianyu's face. Isn't it because you feel that I had slighted you, so you wanted to put me in my place? I admit my mistake, all right? Do you think that I am purposely making things difficult for you? Zhang Xian looked over. No, of course not. Ling Tianyu shook his head hurriedly. There's no need for you to deny it. It is normal that you would think so. Zhang Xian didn't seem to be angry. Instead, he said earnestly, actually, it is for your own good that I had you wait outside for an entire night. For my own good? This time, not only was Ling Tianyu perplexed by his words, a bizarre expression had also emerged on Sun Chang's face. Making someone wait at the door was for his own good? What kind of theory is this? If I'm not wrong, your wife should be severely ill and is on the verge of death, and the reason why you are looking for me is for me to save her. Zhang Xian gazed at Ling Tianyu. Yes. Upon hearing the other party mention his motives, Ling Tianyu jolted. If you want me to save her, you would have to bring her over to me. However, you had come into contact with the southern blood jade yesterday and the vitality-consuming aura was still lingering in your body. If I were to agree and you had come into contact with her once more, she probably would have died before you managed to get her here. Zhang Xian sighed and continued on, thus, I had you wait outside for an entire night so that you can cleanse yourself of that aura. At the same time, you wouldn't hurry home, thus preventing a catastrophe from happening. Of course, if you refused to listen to my words and left, your wife would have died and you wouldn't have to come back. Even a master teacher didn't possess the ability to resurrect the dead. After hearing these words, Ling Tianyu's expression changed and he began to ooze cold sweat. In actual fact, he was raging within as a result of the other party's actions of making him wait outside for the entire night. Even though he didn't dare to speak of it, he had felt great displeasure. A master teacher wasn't just about the strength he holds and his ability to guide others, he should be magnanimous as well. In his view, this master teacher was trying to humiliate him on purpose. After hearing those words did he realize that he was truly mistaken. The other party truly had his intentions at heart. Despite treating the other party so insolently, he still paid such careful heed to his matter, truly the disposition of a master teacher, impressive. He felt like a hypocrite for doubting the intentions of a gentleman. While he felt gratitude toward the other party, relief surged through him as well. It was fortunate that he had managed to hold on yesterday. Otherwise, if he had returned back home, he would have truly regretted his actions for life. Sun Chang, who was still standing by the side, had his eyes opened wide with astonishment. As expected of a master teacher, every single move of the old master was profound. He thought that the old master was intentionally trying to humiliate the other party. Only now did he realize that the thoughts of the old master weren't something a person like him could fathom. Thank you, master. Ling Tianyu bowed deeply. Send someone to bring her over to me so that I can take a look. If she is too ill, even I might be unable to do anything about it. Zhang Xian said. Yes. Ling Tianyu's eyes reddened in agitation. He hurriedly took his leave alongside Master Cheng Yuan. After the two of them left, Zhang Xian turned to look at Sun Chang. Xiao Chang, I have promised you to help you break into Fighter 4 Dan and I do not renege on my words. Execute a punching routine so that I can see your condition. Yes, old master. Hearing that the old master was going to help him break through, Sun Chang nodded his head in excitement. Soon, he completed the entire punching routine. However, not only wasn't Sun Chang pleased by it, he was even slightly embarrassed. Old Master, I was injured yesterday. My body has been weakened significantly and I might not be in the condition to break into Pigu realm today. To achieve a breakthrough in realm, one would have to be in tip-top condition. Yesterday, Sun Qiang was beaten up and he sustained quite a few injuries on his body. No matter how incredible the Old Master was, it was unlikely for him to break through his current realm in such a state. He hadn't really noticed it before, but the moment he started executing his punching routine, he felt an aching pain all over his body and his Jinqi didn't flow as fluidly as it usually did. Don't worry. Zhang Xian interrupted him with a smile. The reason why you have been stuck at the Jinqi realm for so long was because the Jinqi you had cultivated was too impure. As such, it was unable to pass through your meridians to nourish your body. In such a state, one's Jinqi might even stagnate. Putting aside being unable to achieve a breakthrough, one's strength might even deteriorate. Yes. Sun Qiang nodded his head. In the past 2 years, he felt that his stamina had been on a decline and that his realm was slowly deteriorating as well. If not for him persistently cultivating to remain at his current realm, he might have even fallen to Jinqi primary stage. At Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm, one's Jinqi would surge through one's body and nourish one's flesh and bones. Usually, it would be difficult for your impure Jinqi to surge through your entire body. However, the current situation is different. After yesterday's beating, your body was damaged, causing the stagnated Jinqi from before to be jolted back into action. At the same time, the blocked passageways of your meridians had been cleared significantly. Old Master, had others beat me up for my own good? Before Zhang Xian could finish his words, Sun Qiang's body shuddered due to intense emotions and tears of gratitude streamed down his face. Old Master, had Ling Tianyu wait at his doorstep for his own good. Initially, I thought that it was a mistake on his part that I was beaten up, but to think that it was for my own good as well. Yet, I mistook his kind intentions, huh? Seeing tears streaming down the face of his plump butler, Zhang Xian was confused. I just wanted to say that your injury does not affect your training. Why, what were you thinking of? Did you brain spasm? However, this is good as well. All the more, this can help to build my prestige as a master teacher. Cough cough. Zhang Xian coughed and said, indeed. At the very least, my efforts weren't in vain since you were able to understand them. Alright, put these aside. If I'm not wrong, Ling Tianyu should have given you medicine to cure your wounds. Sun Qiang's face flushed. For my sake, Old Master was even willing to be misunderstood. Yet, I shamelessly took the other party's medicine. I am truly unable to compare to him. It's not a big deal. As long as you work for me loyally, it isn't really a big deal for you to take some things. Seemingly guessing the thoughts in his mind, Zhang Xian interrupted. Take the medicine out. Prepare yourself, you will try to break into Fighter 4 Dan now. Right now? Sun Qiang didn't expect things to progress so quickly. Old Master, is there no need to look for a quiet chamber? Also, if I were to try breaking through now, I'm afraid that Lord Ling would return before I can even succeed. If so, I would delay your affairs. There's no need for it. It is just a matter of minutes. Why would you need a quiet chamber? Zhang Xian waved away his concerns. Matter of minutes? Break through in such a short time? Sun Qiang was taken aback. Looking at the Old Master, his eyes widened in disbelief. Chapter 136, Master Teacher Yang Xian. Although Fighter 3 Dan wasn't considered an advanced cultivation realm, it wasn't a low one either. Despite more than a decade of effort, Sun Qiang was still unable to break through, the difficulty clear to see here. Initially, Sun Qiang had thought that it would take at least half a day or even a full day of effort. Yet, the Old Master said that it was just a matter of minutes. Brother, do you think that it is eating or drinking? Sun Qiang felt that his outlook of the world was collapsing and was about to go mad. That amount of time isn't enough for Jinqi to surge through his body. Why? You don't wish to break through? Seeing his daze, Zhang Xian frowned. No, that's not it, old master, what do I need to do? Suppressing his agitation, Sun Qiang quickly replied. Consume the pill first, then use all your strength to propel the Jinqi through your meridians. As for the rest, leave it up to me. Zhang Xian said. All right. Those were very simple instructions. Without any hesitation, Sun Qiang took out a pill and swallowed it. As expected of a pill forged by an official apothecary, it was indeed good stuff. The moment he consumed it, he felt his entire body growing warm and energy surged through his body. Zhang Xian approached him, took out a few silver needles and pierced them at several locations where his meridians were blocked. After his experiences in helping Zhao Yanfeng break through and solving Wang Ying's leg disability, he realized that it was likely that he would need to use them often. As such, he specially prepared and kept a box of silver needles in his storage ring. In order to locate the blockages, others would need to infuse their Jinqi into the other party's body to probe meticulously. However, Zhang Xian was different. As long as the other party executed a battle technique, the Library of Heaven's Path would compile a book with all of their flaws in it. All he had to do was to insert the silver needles at the correct location and use his pure Jinqi to clean away the residue. Zhang Xian infused his Jinqi into the silver needle. Just as though a clear stream flowing into a murky river, turning the entire river clear, the Jinqi which had stagnated started to merge into the flow once again. The accumulated effort that Sun Qiang spent on training over the decade was fearsome. Under the nourishment of the pure Jinqi, the stagnated Jinqi started to circulate through his body once more, causing power in his body to increase explosively. In less than a minute, his Jinqi had already circulated through his entire body once. Boom! He broke through Fighter 3 Dan Jinqi realm immediately. But, the improvement in cultivation realm didn't just stop there, it continued to rise steadily. Finally, after an unknown period of time, it stopped. My cultivation, picking himself up, Sun Qiang examined his strength and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He thought that being able to break through Pigu realm would already be an incredible feat, to think that he would reach Pigu realm advanced stage right away. Barely 5 minutes have passed. However, what left him even more surprised was how accurate his old master's words were. It was truly a matter of minutes. The heck, when did breaking through become such an easy feat? If it were that easy, why did my cultivation realm remain stuck at the same level for more than a decade? Am I really cultivating or am I eating crap? Sun Qiang felt as though he was dreaming, and that he was on the verge of fainting. Alright, all you have to do afterward is to fortify your cultivation. Ignoring Sun Qiang's dazed expression, Zhang Xian retrieved his silver needles and returned to his seat. Actually, the reason why the other party broke through so quickly was because of the party's consistent effort throughout the years, as well as the pure Jinqi Zhang Xian possessed. It was impossible for it to be as fast if any of the factors weren't present. The pure Jinqi had dredged up those stagnated Jinqi which he had accumulated from before. It was as though clear water melting cubes of ice. Naturally, the volume of water increased significantly. As such, breaking into Fighter 4 Dan became an easy task. Otherwise, if he could help Xiaoye and the others break through just by using his needles, he wouldn't have to go through so much effort to earn money for the pills. Of course, more importantly, Zhang Xian didn't want to leave the impression that they could achieve something without working for it. There was still a long road ahead of them. If they were to cultivate such a mindset, their achievements would definitely be limited. Thank you, old master. After recovering from his shock, he immediately kneeled to the ground and bowed with great sincerity and gratitude to the old master. He knew that the only reason why he could achieve such a rapid improvement was because of the old master. If not for him, he wouldn't have been able to receive respect from a figure like Ling Tianyu and enjoy such a grand treatment. He would be stuck in Jinqi realm for his entire life, never to break through. He would have never felt the sensation in his body right now. I must make sure to work diligently in the future. I must not screw up this opportunity given to me. Sun Qiang made up his mind. Ling Tianyu should be arriving soon. Go out and welcome him. After he was done helping him break through, Zhang Xian did not dawdle and casually gestured with his hands. Yes. Sun Chang took his leave. Who could the one living in this mansion be? To be able to transform Sun Chang's status completely, to the point that even Ling Tianyu had to treat him respectfully, addressing him as brother Sun outside the mansion, Yuan got increasingly confused. Only after a long period of time did he finally understand that it was due to the owner of the mansion that Lord Ling, who was of equal standing to his grandfather, treated Sun Chang with such respect. However, he fell into contemplation once more. He couldn't think of any nobles in Tianxian royal city that had such standing to make a billionaire wait outside willingly for an entire night, and furthermore, to be so delighted when the gates opened for him. Jiaya. These doubts were running through his mind when the gates opened and Ling Tianyu and Master Cheng Yuan walked out. They are leaving just like that. No one is sending them off. Yuan blinked his eyes, unable to believe what he saw. Initially, there was, at the very least, still a butler who came to welcome the two in. But now that they were leaving, there wasn't any company. No matter how incredible the master was, the butler should have at least walked the guests out. No matter what, Ling Tianyu was a true billionaire, a person of exceptional standing. Even his grandfather would have to welcome him and walk him out of the hall if he were to visit the Du clan. Then, his father or the elders would accompany him to the gates as a sign of respect. Yet, when Ling Tianyu walked out of the mansion, he had to push open the gates personally. Even the guards at the doors were putting on such airs. Who the heck could it be? Yuan was overwhelmed by curiosity. A moment later, just as he was about to step forward to ask the guards, Jia. The gates opened once more. Sun Chang walked out with his hands by his back. Upon seeing the acquaintance, Yuan decided to step forward for an inquiry, when he staggered out of a sudden. His eyes widened to the point that they were about to pop out of his sockets. Can anyone tell me what is going on? Previously, when this fellow came out, he was only Jinqi realm pinnacle. How is he suddenly in Pigu realm advanced stage? It had just been 10 minutes or so, and his cultivation realm had improved by an entire realm. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Yuan's entire body shuddered. Oh. Isn't this Yuan Gongzi? What kind of wind brought you here? Just when he was about to go into a frenzy from the ridiculousness of the situation, he heard Sun Chang's voice. Lifting his head, he realized that the other party was already standing right before him. Oh, I just happened to pass by. Suppressing the astonishment in his mind, Yuan asked prudently. Weren't you working in the market? Why did you? I'm currently serving as the butler of this residence, following my old master. Confidence exuded from Sun Chang's eyes. Previously, when speaking to the sons of prominent families, he would have to speak prudently, afraid that he might get beaten up for no reason. But now that even Ling Tianyu had to lower his head before him, there was no reason why he should fear a mere junior. Your old master is? Yuan asked hurriedly. You don't know our old master? With his hands behind his back, Sun Chang lifted his head. Admiration and excitement could be seen on his face. Master Teacher Yang Xian. Chapter 137, Touching Your Wife, Master Teacher. Yuan shivered. Everyone knew as a fact that Tianxian Kingdom was one of the weakest kingdoms and had no master teacher to assume command. When did one arrive? Furthermore, one that allowed this fellow to become his butler? No wonder Ling Tianyu was willing to wait for an entire night and had acted so prudently around Sun Chang. Even if it were just a lowest level, one-star master teacher in the mansion, it would nevertheless be an existence Emperor Shenjue dare not to underestimate. For such a man, not to mention a single night, even if Ling Tianyu had to wait for half a year, he wouldn't dare to have a single word of complaint. In fact, if his grandfather knew, he would definitely rush here to pay respect to him as well. A master teacher can raise or destroy an entire country and his words are akin to gold. This was his status. If his father could receive the guidance of a master teacher, the trauma he had sustained might be able to be dispelled and perhaps, he might even revert to the genius he was previously. In that instant, Yuan was filled with envy for the man before him. Sun Qiang used to be just a lowly figure in the commercial city. He had to bow respectfully whenever he saw Yuan, afraid to offend him. Yet now Yuan was the one who had to speak carefully so as to not get on the other party's nerves. Otherwise, even without the master teacher making a move himself, a single word of Sun Qiang's could send countless experts, who were looking for an opportunity to fawn over him, to teach him a lesson. Yang Shi, when did he arrive in the kingdom? Why hadn't I heard of him? Suppressing the astonishment within, Yuan asked. If a master teacher were to really visit Tianxian kingdom, the entire capital would have shaken in an uproar and everyone would have been aware. But why was it that he hadn't heard of such a matter? The old master likes to keep a low profile, so he doesn't want others to know of it. It is enough that you know of it, don't go spreading the word. Alright, I still have things to attend to. If Du Gongzi doesn't have anything on, it would be best for you not to loiter around here. Otherwise, if the old master were to see it, it might cause unnecessary misunderstandings. It would be troublesome then. After the incident with Ling Tianyu, Sun Qiang had regained his confidence. As a result, an air of superiority started to grow around him, and his tone reflected so. Yes, yes. Yuan nodded his head hastily. After finishing his piece, Sun Qiang turned around and went back to the gates. Not long later, a carriage arrived and Ling Tianyu stepped down from it. 2 guards entered the mansion and fetched a palanquin. Lord Ling, please enter. Sun Qiang welcomed him. Thank you, brother Sun. Ling Tianyu clasped his hands to return the greetings. Then, the few of them entered the mansion together. I've heard that Ling Tianyu's wife is sick. It seems like he knows that there is a master teacher here, that's why he stood here for an entire night to plead with him to save her. Instantaneously, Yuan managed to fill in the gaps of the story. Master teachers were not only capable of guiding one's cultivation. Pill forging, medicinal skills, there wasn't a single occupation that they weren't adept at. That's also the reason why they were able to stand at the peak, above all other occupations. It wasn't a secret among the upper echelons of Tianxian kingdom that Ling Tianyu's wife was sick. Yuan had also heard of it, and according to the rumors, even Master Yuan was unable to do anything about it. Upon hearing that a master teacher had arrived at the capital, it was natural that he would want rush forward at first minute's notice. If this master can treat an illness that even Master Yuan was helpless about, then doesn't that mean that there is a hope for my father as well? Yuan's eyes lit up instantaneously. The moment such a thought occurred to him, all thoughts of leaving vanished from Yuan's mind immediately. After a moment of hesitation, he walked toward the tea stand opposite of the mansion. I'll drink tea there. After all, I can't possibly offend a master teacher. This is my wife, Yuro. I beseech Yang Shi to save her. In the room, the guards left right after placing the palanquin down. Ling Tianyu kneeled onto the floor to plead with Zhang Xian. The man and his wife together had been through thick and thin, and they had an extremely close relationship. As long as he was able to save her, no amount was too great a price. Clearly, he had heard of Zhang Xian's name from Sun Qiang's mouth. Zhang Xian stood up. Upon seeing the lady on the palanquin, he frowned. The lady seemed to be around Ling Tianyu's age, but time didn't seem to have left many scars on her face. Even though she wasn't exceptionally beautiful, she exuded a natural disposition that induced trust and tranquility in others. However, such a blessed woman was lying motionless on the palanquin with her eyes tightly shut. Her condition seems to be worse than I have expected. Zhang Xian's face darkened. He had only come into contact with the southern blood jade, and from it, he knew that the object could cause nearly irreversible damage to ordinary humans. Initially, he thought that as long as he destroyed the blood jade and nourished the body of the patient, she should recover swiftly. However, upon catching sight of the lady, he knew that he had underestimated the severity of the matter. It was clear that the other party had fallen into a coma. If she didn't receive treatment soon, even Zhang Xian might find himself powerless to save her. I was still thinking that if she was awake, I could ask her to execute a punching routine so that I can compile a book, find the flaws and treat her. But now what should I do? Zhang Xian was in distress. He had thought the matter out too simply previously. If the other party was awake, he could have her execute a battle technique and the Library of Heaven's Path would compile a book, from which he would be able to learn how he should treat her. This way, even if he wasn't able to find a clear remedy for the matter, he would still be able to say some things about her condition and perhaps come up with some solution to alleviate her condition. However, her lying there was no different from being a corpse. How could he go around doing it? It was impossible to get her to execute a punching routine. Sigh, it sure isn't easy acting as an expert. It is getting harder and harder to make a living nowadays. Yang Shi, can my wife be treated? Seeing that the other person had walked several rounds around Yu Rou, Ling Tianyu's frown deepened and anxiety was displayed clearly on his face. Don't be so anxious, I'm still observing her condition. Zhang Xian was already feeling extremely stressed. Now, upon being questioned by the other party, he felt even more dispirited. He had already boasted about his abilities. It would be embarrassing to fail at such a crucial moment. If he were to fail with the very first customer, not only would all of his preparations be in vain, his reputation would also be shattered. His prestige as a master teacher would be shaken. By then, it would truly be a dream to earn 20 million gold coins in 9 days. Oh, upon hearing that the other party mentioned that he was still observing the situation and not that there was no cure for his wife, Ling Tianyu heaved a sigh of relief. Even so, he couldn't help but rub his hands together nervously by the corner. Flaws. Why won't you come out? Circling another 2 rounds, he kept shouting such words in his mind. Yet, the Library of Heaven's Path was totally unreactive, as though it was dead. Zhang Xian felt so depressed that he could have spat a mouthful of blood. It looked like just like how it was the many other times before, the library could only compile a book of weaknesses when a person was executing a battle technique. He circled around the person, shouted in his mind, gritted his teeth and scratched his head furiously, but as expected, it was all useless. Looks like I have really failed at such a crucial timing. He circled a few more rounds and confirmed that there was truly no movements in the library at all. Just as Zhang Xian was about to helplessly declare to the other party that he was unable to cure her, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He stopped and lifted his head to look at Ling Tianyu with a look of excitement. Yang Shi, seeing his movements come to a halt, Ling Tianyu's nervousness surged once more. He understood that the other party had arrived at a conclusion and intended to tell him about it. Life or death, his wife's fate hinged on this moment. There's no need to worry. The situation isn't that bad yet. Upon seeing his nervousness, Zhang Xian consoled him. Yang Shi, you can just speak the truth. I can bear the truth, no matter what it is. Ling Tianyu gritted his teeth. There's nothing much I can tell you now. How about this, you lift your wife up so that I can touch her? Zhang Xian said. Touch my wife? In an instant, Ling Tianyu's face became as dark as ink. Lao Shi is an address for normal teachers, whereas Shi is an address of master teachers. Chapter 138, Treatable. You want to touch my wife before me? Furthermore, I am to lift her for you even though you are a master teacher. You can't humiliate me like that. Ling Tianyu clenched his fists tightly and the sound of him grinding teeth resounded in the room. He was on the verge of going on mad. Hearing those words, son Cheng, who was watching the situation by the side, nearly fainted as well. As expected of the old master, he sure is domineering. To have the husband help up his own wife for you to touch as a master teacher, he could have all the women he wanted. Yet, to think that he would have such an interest. Looks like I have to hide my wife from him in the future. Of course, I have to find a wife first. Forget it, it is better not to lift her up, given her condition. I will go over and touch her myself. As Zhang Xian's sight was fixated on the lady lying on the floor, who was dressed in elaborate palace attire, he was oblivious to the two's expressions. After seeing no one move into action after saying those words, he gestured with his hands to renounce his previous order. Given the lady's situation, it was best not to lift her up. If she were to die from the movement, Zhang Xian would be in trouble. You will go over and touch her yourself. Ling Tianyu felt that the other party was trampling on his dignity mercilessly. Since I won't help you, you are going to help yourself. To not even spare a lady who is in a coma, you are unbefitting of the title of a master teacher. You are a beast. As he was on the verge of losing control of his temper and about to enter a rage, the other party was already before Yu and had stretched out his hands toward her wrist. Ah! Even if it would spell his death, he was unwilling to allow anyone to defile his wife's dignity. But just when he was about to get violent, such a scene unfolded before him. Ling Tianyu was stupefied. The heck, what is going on? Didn't you say that you are going to touch her? Could it be that the touch you spoke of refers to feeling her pulse? There are acupoints on one's wrist, and a teacher would often come into contact with a student's wrist when guiding them on their cultivation. However, that is what you call touch too. Do you need to act so darn misleading? Brother, let me tell you. If not for your identity as a master teacher, you will be beaten to death if you speak in such a manner. Outside, Sun Chang's mouth was also twitching. Old Master's ability in linguistics is really atrocious. Everyone thought that he had vile intentions in mind when he said that he was going to touch Ling Tianyu's wife. Yet to actually mean this, why did you have to make such a proper and upright matter sound so wretched? To make me misunderstand your intentions as well. Feeling one's pulse was also called touching one's pulse. Zhang Xian spoke casually, and he didn't think that his words would cause such a huge misunderstanding. He was also oblivious to the fact that the physicians in this world did not feel one's pulse while diagnosing the patient. Rather, they operated just like the Western doctors in his previous life, conducting all kinds of tests to analyzing the patient's condition instead. Thus, when Ling Tianyu heard him say touch, it was impossible for him to fathom that he meant touching his wife's pulse, as there wasn't such a practice in this world. This was also the reason why such a misunderstanding was generated. Zhang Xian didn't know that their minds had gone through a roller coaster ride. Rather, he was pondering over the idea that had emerged in his mind just a moment ago. The Library of Heaven's Path. Other ability, appraising treasures. Back then, when he competed with Master Mo Yang, he had used such an ability. As long as it was a tangible object, he could compile a manual on its weakness just by touching it. Right now, this lady was deep in a coma and her condition was not much different from a dead person. As such, it was impossible for her to execute a punching routine. Was it possible for a book on her to be compiled by touching her? That was the reason why he wanted to touch the other party. Of course, in his mind, he simply thought of this lady as a tangible object. If Ling Tianyu were to know of his true thoughts, he would probably vomit blood. His wife wasn't dead yet, and to be treated as an object, indeed. The moment his finger came into contact with the other party's wrist, the Library of Heaven's Path, which had remained inert for quite some time now, jolted and a book appeared before him. Zhang Xian almost leaped into the air due to intense joy. It was only a conjecture on his part. To think that it would truly work. He turned his attention to the book hurriedly, and the words, Yu Ro, was written on the cover. Flipping over, the details of the other party's life and her flaws were written within. Yu Ro, 43 years of age, a citizen of Tianxian Royal City, the wife of Tianyu merchant firm's boss. Ling Tianyu, fighter 2 Dan primary stage. Flaws. Number 1, the meridians within her body are weak, making it impossible for her to practice profound cultivation techniques to generate Jinqi. Number 2, her talent toward cultivation is lacking, her ability to sense spiritual energy in the air is too weak. Number 8, the body had been corroded by the aura of the southern blood Jade, causing her 8 extraordinary meridians to be blocked. The specific locations where the 8 meridians are blocked are. Several pages of the book were densely filled with such information. All of Yu Ro's flaws were detailed within. Looks like it is only a problem of blockages in her meridians. This is easy. After reading the book, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Initially, he was still worried that he would not be able to find a remedy if her illness turned out to be difficult to cure. If that happened, he would just explain the problem to Ling Tianyu and send him away. At the very least, he was able to account the situation to the other party. However, since it was only a blockage of her meridians, things became so much simpler. It was similar to the problems that Lu Yang, Wang Ying, and Xiao Yan faced, and it wasn't complicated to resolve. Of course, that was only to him. Anyone else, even if it were a fighter 8 Dan Zhongsher expert, would also find it unfathomable to solve such problems. The meridians of a human's body are inherently weak. Once it becomes blocked, one could only try to penetrate through the blockage through consistent effort over long periods of time. However, Zhang Xian was different. As he cultivated the Heaven's Path divine art, his Jinqi was completely pure and free from contaminants. With as such a Jinqi infused into one's body, any kinds of blockages, even if it were due to a thin and narrow meridian, could be broken through immediately. There was no problem whatsoever. This was also the basis for why he was able to help Zhao Yanfeng and Sun Chang break through so quickly and resolve Wang Ying's problem so easily. "Yang Shi, how is it?" Upon seeing him done feeling his wife's pulse, Ling Tianyu's anxiety started to surge once more. "It is not a difficult matter to solve your wife's illness." Zhang Xian returned to his seat and gestured majestically. "Not a difficult matter?" Ling Tianyu's eyes narrowed. His tightly clenched fists finally loosened and he kneeled to the floor in agitation. "Yang Shi, I beg of you to save my wife." He had gone through all means to save Yu Rou, but even the #1 physician in Tianxian Kingdom, Master Yuan, was helpless before her illness. He thought that it was all hopeless, but the heavens had left a path for him. This Yang Shi was able to treat her. The exhilaration he felt at this moment was clear to see. Death is abhorred by the heavens. If I did not intend to help you, I wouldn't have interfered in your affairs at Tianyu merchant firm. Zhang Xian waved his hands and had him stand up. However, a frown soon appeared on his face, but even though it wasn't difficult for him to treat her, if he were to make a move so easily, wouldn't all of the efforts he made before be in vain? Regardless of what that is needed, as long as it is something Yang Shi speaks of, I will definitely fulfill the requests even if it means my bankruptcy. Ling Tianyu said. Seeing how cooperative the other party was, Zhang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. Indeed, a businessman's instincts are sharp. Just a single word and the other party understood what he was hinting at. Your wife's body had been corroded by the aura for an extremely long time. It is not very possible for her to be completely treated within a short period of time. It will probably take 10 days, 9 days. Furthermore, you will have to spend quite a sum of money to purchase expensive medicinal herbs for her treatment every day. Initially, Zhang Xian wanted to say 10 days, but recalling that 1 day had already passed, he immediately changed his words. Actually, given his pure Jinqi, it would only take a moment for him to treat her completely. As for the reason why he said that it would take 9 days, of course, it was to make more money. Facing a lack of money, he had no choice. Even though her treatment was dragged out, at the very least, she would be saved. This was much better than watching her die. Yang Shi, what medicinal herbs do you need? I will go and buy them now. After hearing that Yang Shi could treat his wife, Ling Tianyu had already regarded him as a deity. He wouldn't fuss over how long it would take and how expensive the medicinal herbs were. However, the moment he said those words, the calm Yang Shi suddenly looked over with a darkened face and a cold glare. Chapter 139, Great Loss. It was no wonder why Zhang Xian wasn't happy. Even though he had said expensive medicinal herbs, it was actually an excuse. Given how his pure Jinqi was more than sufficient to open up her blocked meridians, why would he need medicinal herbs? If the other party were to buy it himself, how could he earn his money? Just as he was thinking about how he could get the other party to fork out the money obediently, Ling Tianyu slapped his forehead suddenly and grinned. Yang Shi, actually, I am not really knowledgeable about medicinal herbs. I'm afraid that you would have to buy the required herbs yourself. After which, he presented a stack of bills. It was not that he understood the meaning behind Zhang Xian's actions. Rather, all fighters had their own secrets. Since this master teacher is able to treat his wife when even Master Yuan found himself helpless before her, he must have his own exclusive secret treatment formula. Wouldn't he be exposing the other party's secret treatment formula if he were to buy the medicinal herbs? It was no wonder he was displeased. As such, he immediately changed his words. Just by reflecting briefly, Zhang Xian understood the reason by the changes in Ling Tianyu's actions as well. Without explaining in the least, he gestured for Sun Cheng to accept the stack of bills. How could a master teacher personally grab that stack of money personally? It is unbefitting of his position. Alright, I will begin her treatment now. After successfully laying his hands of the gold bills, Zhang Xian didn't dawdle any further. He walked over to Yu Rou, whipped out his silver needles, and inserted it at the points where her meridians were blocked. Simultaneously, Jinqi was infused into the other party's body. Tzzzzzzzzzzzz. The pure Jinqi swept through her body and all the shackles in her body disappeared instantaneously. Ning. The unconscious Yu Rou slowly opened her eyes. This, Ling Tianyu and the others present in the room were astounded. Didn't you say that it would be difficult to treat her, that it will take 9 days of effort along with an exorbitant sum? Yet, in a few moments, she was already awake. Furthermore, it looked as though he had merely placed a few needles on her. Crap, I made a blunder. Clearly, Zhang Xian didn't expect that the other party would awaken so quickly as well. Zhang Xian nearly threw up blood. If she woke up so quickly, how could he continue to suck money off Ling Tianyu? The Library of Heaven's path only detailed flaws on a person's body. It didn't record what would happen once those flaws were resolved, and as such, Zhang Xian wouldn't have known the unblocking of which specific meridian would help her regain her conscious. Initially, he had intended to spread the workload over 9 days, clearing a few areas of meridian blockage every single day. This way, he would be able to drag out the treatment and earn a greater sum from Ling Tianyu. Yet, he didn't expect that just by clearing a few points, she would awaken. Cough cough. She woke up too quickly. It felt as though there was no difficulty in his treatment at all. How could he dupe the other party's money like that? Zhang Xian felt dismal. Incredible, Yang Shi. After the initial astonishment, Ling Tianyu felt completely impressed by the other party's means. Even though it looked like he had just placed a few needles on the other party's body, it was actually an extremely profound art. It contained secrets that outsiders would find hard to comprehend. Otherwise, why wasn't Master Yuan able to do the same? On the other hand, this Yang Shi was able to cure his wife in an instant through this art. Clearly, this was the disparity between their capabilities. Initially, Zhang Xian thought that the other party would feel as though he had wasted his money for naught. Contrary to his expectations, the admiration in the other party's gaze simply deepened. Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief, waved his hands casually and said, "The first day of treatment only helps her regain her consciousness. I will look for some special herbs to help her nourish her strength. After I'm done, I will send someone to bring it over." "All right." Ling Tianyu hurriedly nodded his head. After which, Zhang Xian didn't speak any longer. "Then, we shall not disturb Yang Shi any longer," after which, he gestured for his subordinate to lift the palanquin and prepared to leave. Tianyu, before the two subordinates could even lift the palanquin, the lady on the palanquin spoke and slowly stood up. "Your body is still weak. Quickly, lie down." Seeing her stand up, Ling Tianyu hurriedly walked over. "There's no need for that. My entire body has gone numb after lying for half a year. I want to walk about." Under the support of her husband, even though Yu Rou's body was still weak, walking did not pose a big problem. "This is Yang Shi. He's the one who treated you. Ling Tianyu quickly introduced. Yang Shi. Master teacher. Yu Rou's eyes narrowed and she quickly bowed down. Yu Rou, thank Yang Shi for saving my life, it's just a small thing. Zhang Xian was weeping within, but on the surface, he maintained an indifferent and casual expression. Witnessing his attitude, Ling Tianyu and the others felt even more impressed. This is a true master teacher. After solving a major problem, he didn't bother vying for compliments or demand rewards. His attitude was truly admirable. It was laughable that they misunderstood him just now to think that they evaluated such a gentleman by their standards. Soon, Ling Tianyu brought his wife out of the courtyard. After which, Sun Cheng immediately presented the gold bills in his palms. Taking a casual glance, Zhang Xian was astonished within. There were 10 notes of 100,000 each in there. In total, it added up to 1,000,000. Yang Imo had to dupe innumerable people in order to earn that much money. Yet, a master teacher was able to receive that much in just a single treatment session. It was truly frightening. However, after the initial astonishment, Zhang Xian's head hurt once more. 1,000,000 may seem like a huge sum, but to his current situation it was an insufficient and meager sum. He wanted to stall the treatment for an additional few more days to earn a little bit more money. Yet not only did the other party regain her consciousness, she even walked out of his mansion herself. It wasn't wise for him to drag it out under such a situation. The condition of Lord Ling's wife was something that had left the entire Tianxian city stumped. Yet, with a moment of effort, Old Master was able to get her to regain her consciousness. In fact, she even became well enough to walk. Incredible, Sun Cheng muttered under his breath excitedly. His admiration for the Old Master overflowed from within and appeared in his words and expression. However, hearing those words, Zhang Xian felt even more depressed. It wasn't easy for him to ensnare a billionaire. Yet, due to his lack of knowledge on the treatment's effectiveness, he failed to grab a huge sum from the other party. Just the thought of it caused sadness to well up within him. Forget it, 1,000,000 is still money anyway. Since he was unable to drag it out, he might as well get it over and done with. Zhang Xian passed Sun Cheng a gold bill, wrote a list and had him go out to buy some herbs. As a person who became an apothecary through pill debate, Zhang Xian was unable to forge pills. Even so, prescribing some medicinal powder to nourish one's body was still a simple task to him. Let's just treat these medicinal powder as expensive, precious medicinal herbs. The other party wouldn't check on it for fear of incurring his wrath anyway. Boss, another pot of tea. Yuan found a table to occupy at the tea stand and casually threw a gold coin over. Coming. The boss was a 50-year-old or so elderly. He brought a pot over to Yuan's table with a wide smile. Boss, I have something to ask you. Seeing that the tea stand was directly opposite the mansion, Yuan couldn't help but ask him. Customer, feel free to voice any queries that you have. Upon seeing the gold coin in Yuan's hand, the boss's eyes immediately lit up. I would like to ask about the opposite. As he spoke, Yuan pointed to the opposite mansion, but his words stopped abruptly when he saw the gates to the mansion opening slowly. Sun Cheng is coming out again. Initially, he thought that it was Sun Cheng who come out to settle some affairs. However, he soon realized that he was wrong when he saw Ling Tianyu, who had just entered a moment ago, supporting another person out. Is this Ling Tianyu's wife? Yuan shuddered. His heart almost stopped from astonishment. He had met Ling Tianyu's wife twice and as such, he was able to recognize her. It was just a moment ago that she was carried in on a palanquin and she is already on her own feet? Must it be so exaggerated? Could I be seeing things? If he didn't know for a fact that Ling Tianyu's wife was truly ill, he would have thought that the other party was just acting the heck. This was an illness which even Master Yuan was helpless about. It hadn't even been 10 minutes since she was carried in and she was walking about. Yuan didn't know whether something was wrong with his eyes or instead, something was wrong with the world. Chapter 140, news spreads Tianxian royal city, in the interiors of the Du clan residence. A middle-aged man walked out of a room that overlooked a tranquil pond, carrying a pot of cooling tea. Every day after lunch, he had a habit he engaged in, and that was drinking cooling tea. This was the time when he would be the most relaxed. He had already ordered for no one to interrupt him, even if it were his own son. He was once a radiant genius of Tianxian Kingdom's Du clan, a serious contender for the position of clan head. However, he is only an ordinary elder now. Du Xuan, Du Yuan's father. Even though his cultivation had fallen tremendously after a severe bout of illness and his faction had already weakened after the years of oppression, his presence nevertheless commanded respect. No one dared to disobey his orders. No one would dare to interrupt his moment of tranquility. Right now, I still wield a certain level of control over the situation. However, when I die, my successor will surely be expelled. If it comes down to that, I should have Yuan leave the clan first. Otherwise, there could be complications. Lying on the reclining chair, his eyes were gently shut. At this point, his words seemed to still hold some weight. That was because the other party did not consider him as a threat for the clan head position and allowed him to be. However, if he were to die or if the old clan head above him were to retire, his faction would definitely be unable to hold on and hence, collapse without fail. The outsiders only saw the glory and prestige of being in a powerful clan, but they failed to see the schemes and underhanded fights that occurred within. The intensity was in no way inferior to the struggle for power within the royal palace. A single moment of carelessness could result in being crippled and damned for all eternity. Father, Father, just when his mind had quietened and he began to muse over the future, a panicked voice rang. Then, he saw his profligate son charging in with an agitated look. Didn't I say to not interrupt me at such times? Du Xuan's face darkened. Father, Du Yuan froze for a moment. Only now did he recall that it was his father's personal resting time. Get out. Oh, witnessing his father's rage, Du Yuan swallowed his words and walked back out. Wait a moment, for you to come looking for me so anxiously, is there something wrong? After taking a sip of cooling tea, Du Xuan's anger subsided. Lying horizontally on the chair, his eyes were half closed. A master teacher had arrived in the city and he cured Ling Tianyu's wife's illness. I was thinking, that isn't father injured as well? Perhaps, we could pay him a visit so that he can take a look. With a lowered head, he uttered the news which he had just gathered. However, before he could finish his words, he sensed a peculiarity in the atmosphere. Upon lifting his head to take a look, he almost fell to the ground. Unknowingly, his father, who was lying on the chair a moment ago, was already standing right in front of him. His eyes were as round as a gong and his body quivered uncontrollably. Even though the cup of cooling tea that he held in his hands had spilled onto the ground, he seemed to be totally unaware. Father, Du Yuan stared at his father with a shocked expression. Father, what father? Repeat what you just said. A master teacher had arrived in the city. Grabbing his son's shoulder suddenly, Du Xuan lost all traces of serenity that was seen on mere second ago. It was witnessed personally, so it is definitely true. Du Yuan quickly spoke of everything he had learned. Actually, he knew about his father's condition. His meridians were blocked as a result of that severe illness, and every day, when afternoon came, his jinqi would flow erratically and he would behave embarrassingly. Because he was afraid of others discovering it, he cultivated the habit of drinking cooling tea. It served as a front for concealment. Father, this master teacher possesses extraordinary means. Shall we pay him a visit? After recounting what he had seen, Du Yuan asked. But before he could finish his words, he noticed that his father, usually a calm man, was already 10 meters ahead of him, shouting, "Why are you in a daze? Hurry up! Let's pay the master teacher a visit." It took Du Yuan a long moment to regain his senses. Father, your shoes. Previously, his father had removed his shoes to lie on the chair and he hadn't put them on yet. Furthermore, his clothes were still in a mess yet. He wanted to leave like that. One must know that he is an extremely austere man. One of the things he hated the most was a messy outer appearance. Oh, hearing his son's words, Xuan came to a realization. He tidied up his appearance quickly and proceeded with big strides. It was after he left the residence that he realized something, right, son? Where does that master teacher you spoke of live? Yuan. What did you say? A master teacher has appeared in the city. He treated Ling Tianyu's wife within 10 minutes. How is that possible? It must be a fake rumor. Even Master Yuan was helpless before her illness. No matter how incredible master teachers can be, their medical capabilities can't possibly exceed that of a true physician. I also think that it might be an exaggeration. After all, such things only happen in one's dream. I heard that the person is called Qiang. Of the 9 great kingdoms around Tianxian Kingdom, there are only a few master teachers and I have never heard of this name. Perhaps he might just be an incredible physician, and the rumors simply went out of hand. If he were a true master physician, how could it be possible for Emperor Shenjue to not know of it? Emperor Shenjue had been looking forward to having a master teacher in our empire more than the rest of us. I heard that he had specially sent quite a few invitations to them. If one had arrived in the capital, how could it be possible for him to be unaware? Regardless of the truth, we just have to send some people to look into it to know the truth. The same situation appeared in countless great clans and powers. Ling Tianyu could be considered as one of the more prestigious figures in the entire Tianxian kingdom. How could anyone not doubt after hearing that he had camped outside a mansion overnight? The moment their investigations revealed that a master teacher was involved, news started spreading like wildfire. Even so, no one really believed the rumors. Even the lowest one-star master teacher had to be welcomed with a state ceremony, so how could one just appear in such a humble mansion so abruptly without the slightest bit of news? Such heated debates had broken out everywhere, but the person in question, Zhang Xian, was oblivious. At this moment, he was looking at Sun Chang with a deep frown on his face. That's weird, why does it not appear when I touch him? After Ling Tianyu left, he couldn't help but experiment generating books by touching others upon recalling the incident. Eventually, he touched every single part of Sun Chang's body, but nothing happened. Xiao Cheng, lie down. Zhang Xian ordered. Lie down. Sun Chang's mouth twitched and he was on the verge of tears. Going by logic, no matter what the old master wanted him to do, he was willing to cooperate fully. But touching his body as he pleased, he felt as though he was about to go mad. Previously, he was alarmed when he heard the old master say that he wanted to touch Ling Tianyu's wife. He thought that the old master had a unique interest in such things. In the end, when the misunderstandings cleared up, he heaved a sigh of relief. In the end, it seemed like his interest wasn't in females, but in males even more, so he wasn't satisfied with just touching. He wanted him to lie down. My innocence, my chastity, old master, hurry up. Zhang Xian frowned in displeasure. He was unhappy about Sun Chang's protest, especially when all he wanted him to do was to lie down. Yes. With tears welling up in his eyes, Sun Chang lied down and waited for old master's beastly assault. However, all the old master did was to touch his wrist and the other parts of his body. With a perplexed voice, the old master said, "That's weird, why isn't there any reaction?" Reaction? Old master, what kind of reaction do you want? Sun Chang shuddered. To be fondling his body, could it be that he wanted him to be aroused first? After so long, it turned out that he was at bottom. When that thought emerged in his mind, Sun Chang shivered in disgust. No reaction at all, correct. Just as his mind began to run wild, the old master slapped his forehead, seemingly thought of something. The old master lowered his head to look at him. Xiao Chang, don't move. I will try knocking you unconscious. Sun Chang felt his head spinning. What is going on? Old master, what do you want to do? Could it be that you feel embarrassed because I'm conscious? Chapter 141, You're a Beast. Finally overcoming Sun Chang's attempts to struggle, Zhang Xian managed to knock him unconscious. Upon contact with the unconscious Sun Qiang, a book immediately appeared in Zhang Xian's mind. Only then did Zhang Xian understand how it worked. For those who were conscious, executing a movement, even if it wasn't a battle technique, would cause the compilation of a book on them. As time went by, the contents detailed inside would also change automatically. After all, humans were beings with learning capabilities and as such, their flaws would constantly change. On the other hand, those who are unconscious are treated as objects. A book would be compiled upon coming into contact with them. The two scenarios do not conflict and the difference was clear and simple. It was a matter of whether the person in question was conscious or not. Knowing that the library had such an ability, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. If he were to meet with another case like Ling Tianyu's wife, he just had to touch them. He wouldn't panic as he did this round. Old Master, an elder from Du clan, Du Xuan, requests an audience. After waking up, Sun Qiang examined his body and after confirming that he hadn't been assaulted, heaved a sigh of relief. He took his leave hurriedly, but after a moment, came back to report. An elder from Du clan. Have him come in. Zhang Xian waved his hands and returned to his seat. Looks like the news regarding Ling Tianyu had spread rather quickly. Someone is already here to pay a visit. You say that you witnessed it yourself? Sun Qiang himself claimed that a master teacher resides in here. Outside, Du Xuan turned to look at his son doubtfully. Due to his illness, his cultivation fell tremendously. As such, when he heard that a master teacher had come to visit, he lost his decorum immediately. But on his way here, he gradually calmed down and noticed suspicious points. Why would a master teacher suddenly appear here without any news? Furthermore, how could he be staying in such a small mansion? Also, a true master teacher has countless disciples and followers. There was no need for a master teacher to hire the boss of a realtor store as his butler. There were too many illogical parts to the story. Sun Qiang said it himself. Also, I witnessed the happenings with Ling Tianyu's wife personally. Du Yuan explained. Du Xuan nodded his head. Regardless of whether the other party was a true master teacher or not, this was a chance. If he turned out to be a fraud, he could choose to leave at any moment. Jia. The doors to the courtyard opened and Sun Qiang emerged. The old master happens to be free, please enter. Du Xuan and Du Yuan exchanged a glance before entering the mansion. The mansion was decorated in the manner similar to how a Philistine merchant would and there was nothing outstanding about it to him. The further Du Xuan proceeded, the more he thought that the other party could be a fraud. Soon, they arrived at the main hall. Old Master, this is Elder Du Xuan and his son, Du Yuan. Sun Qiang said. Zhang Xian turned around and invited, please be seated. Yes. Du Xuan and his son sat on the guest seats. At the same time, they secretly assessed the master teacher before them. He looked to be in his 40s, but his skin was smooth, so it was likely for him to be younger than he appeared to be. Gedeng, Du Xuan's heart skipped a beat. The man had concealed his appearance. When he was younger, he once left to accumulate worldly experience and had opened his eyes to many different things. He had once seen such a face-changing technique. If he were a real master teacher, why would he change his appearance? Clearly, he was a fake. Perhaps, he might be working together with Ling Tianyu, and this inexperienced son of his took it for real. As such, his heart chilled and his face darkened. Noticing his expression, Zhang Xian felt a little dismal. Didn't this fellow come over after hearing how he helped Ling Tianyu? Why was he displaying such an attitude to a master teacher? He remained silent, and Du Xuan didn't speak either. As such, the air in the main hall stilled and the atmosphere grew awkward. It's like that, my father had once fallen severely ill and it caused a great fall in his cultivation. After hearing that Yang Shi is here, we came over hoping that Yang Shi could take a look to see if there's possible a remedy for his problem. Seeing that his father remained silent, Du Yuan hurriedly spoke up, full of anxiety. Wasn't father very excited on the way here? Why isn't he speaking now that he had arrived? It would be terrible if we offend Yang Shi because of this. Am I a physician? Zhang Xian lifted his eyebrows in displeasure. Since he was feigning as a master teacher, he had to carry the prestige of one. Given how the other party clearly doubted his identity, if he were to anxiously go straight into treating the other party, wouldn't that be unbefitting of his status? No, that's not it. Yuan was taken aback. He tugged on his father's sleeves immediately. Father, oh. My son didn't put his words properly, please forgive him. Upon confirming that the fellow before him was a fraud, Xuan no longer maintained the respectful attitude he held just before. Even so, he maintained basic courtesy. I met with some problems on my cultivation, and upon hearing of Yang Shi's arrival, I could not help but make a visit hoping to learn from you. I hope that Yang Shi would be so generous as to guide me along. Problems with your cultivation? Taking in the other party's words, Zhang Xian was affirmative that the other party was suspicious of his identity. He frowned in puzzlement. Considering both his disposition and background, there shouldn't have been any problems at all. Why would the other party doubt him? It was no wonder that he wasn't able to realize his mistakes. He was a mere librarian and a true blue shut-in in his previous life. The reason why he was able to convince Ling Tianyu was because the man did not possess much experience in the pugilistic world, and as such, he was blind to the flaws in his disguise. However, his camouflage was indeed insufficient to fool experienced and streetwise veterans such as Xuan. Father, detecting the lack of respect in his father's voice, Yuan started to panic. Father had always been a calm and prudent person, why is he acting so recklessly today? The other party was a master teacher. Even Ling Tianyu had to kneel outside for an entire night before he could pay him a visit. It was already a blessing that we were allowed to enter immediately, so we should make full use of the opportunity. But why, oh? What do you want to learn? Even though he was curious why the other party doubted his identity, Zhang Xian wasn't worried in the least. Instead, he looked at him with interest. Even though he was pretending to be a master teacher, he wasn't truly deceiving his customers. With the Library of Heaven's Path, even a true master teacher would be unable to match his abilities in identifying one's problems. So you doubt me? I will make you not dare to doubt me. I have just learned a new battle technique and found it hard to grasp. I hope that Yang Shi can correct me. Immediately after finishing his sentence, Xuan stood up. From what he sees, the person before him is definitely a fraud. Since you want to play off as a master teacher, I will execute a punching routine before you. When you find yourself stumped, I will tear off your disguise. Woo! Before Zhang Xian could reply, Xuan clenched his fists and started moving around the room. As expected of an ex-genius, his fists were forceful and it brought an intense pressure to the audiences. His techniques and moves were also profound. Xuan was a Pixue realm expert. Due to the severe illness, he plunged to Dingli realm. Even so, his strength didn't fall much in comparison. With his current strength, he would be able to match with even Pixue realm intermediate stage experts. It was no wonder that he was able to remain as an elder in Du clan despite being in just Dingli realm. He had true strength indeed. Who? After finishing his punching routine, he retracted his fists. Please offer me your guidance. Xuan clasped his fists as he stared at Zhang Xian with piercing eyes. He wanted to hear what would that fraud had to say. You want me to offer you my guidance? Aware of his thoughts, Zhang Xian looked at him impassively. Yes. Xuan replied calmly. Your fleeting fist is indeed incredible, you should have reached 3 dan for it already. However, you seem to be unable to control your strength effectively. If I'm not wrong, at this point, Zhang Xian opened his eyes and a playful smile crept onto his lips. You are a beast. Chapter 142, Kneeling Outside, What? Hearing those words, Sun Qiang and the others present in the room froze. Especially Du Yuan, his complexion turned awful immediately. Even if there were problems with his father's punching routine, how could an upright master teacher humiliate someone so casually and call him a beast? That was a personal attack. Yang Shi, even if my father has offended you, there shouldn't be a need for you to insult him in such a manner, gritting his teeth in anger, Du Yuan protested. Insult? Zhang Xian shook his head. Ask your father whether I am insulting him or not. Father, Du Yuan turned around to look at Du Miaoshuan. With a single glance, he was astonished. His father's body was trembling uncontrollably, and the calm that he possessed a moment ago had disappeared without a trace. I beg for Yang Shi to save me, Putong. Just as doubts sped through his mind, he saw his father exclaim and kneel to the floor. Ah! Du Yuan was taken aback. A confused expression had also appeared on Sun Qiang's face. Is Du Miaoshuan mentally impaired? Or is he a masochist? His tone was so forceful a moment ago, but when he failed to perform as an expert, even getting insulted by the old master at that, he immediately kneeled down? Xiao Cheng, send our guests off. Ignoring Du Miaoshuan was kneeling on the floor, Zhang Xian waved them away. What a joke, what do you take me for? You doubted my identity and even tried to test me, and now you expect me to save you? Yes. Sun Qiang drew closer. Please leave. Please forgive me for being blind, I beg of you to give me a second chance. Upon hearing that Zhang Xian was evicting them, Du Miaoshuan was horror-struck. He kowtowed immediately while feeling intense regret over his actions. If only he had listened to his son, such a situation wouldn't have occurred. Doubting the identity of a master teacher was equivalent to challenging his authority and prestige, it was no wonder that he was displeased. Witnessing an influential elder of the Du clan kowtowing over and again, Sun Qiang was at a loss. He hurriedly shot a gaze at the old master. Why? Does my words not matter anymore? Zhang Xian frowned. Even though there was no anger in his voice was authoritative. Yes, Sun Qiang shuddered and gestured the other guards in hurriedly, men, send Elder Du out. Hearing the commands, a few guard quickly walked over. Elder Du, please. The few guards stepped forward. Father, Du Yuan was still unable to comprehend the situation. Why did his father not feel anger upon being insulted as a beast by Yang Shi, and instead, kneel down and beg to be saved? I was too rash and I admit my fault. I will wait at the gates to beg for Yang Shi's forgiveness. Du Miaoshuan kowtowed once more and walked out of his own accord. Du Yuan hurriedly followed behind him. The moment he passed the gates, he dropped to his knees in the middle of the street facing the mansion, motionless. Father, Du Yuan was about to go insane. No matter what, his father used to be a strong contender for the position of the clan head. Even if he is now an ordinary elder, his continues to hold a distinguished position as compared to the other elders. For him to kneel in the middle of the street, why? Was it because the other party called him a beast? Could it be that father is truly a masochist? You kneel down as well. Before he could fully understand the situation, he heard Du Miaoshuan's cold voice sounding from beside him. Father, Du Yuan gritted his teeth. I don't understand that Yang Shi is a true master teacher. I had spoken inappropriately earlier and offended him. Thus I have to apologize to him. A master teacher is someone that cannot be insulted, even in the slightest. Kneel down. We can only hope that he would forgive us because he is a true master teacher. Only he is capable of curing my illness. He can cure you. Du Yuan was confused. He didn't recall Yang Shi mention anything related before. All he did was to insult him, you are a beast. Could that be the reason why father became so certain? The more he pondered, the more confused he got. Old Master, Elder Du, and his son are kneeling before the gates. Hearing the subordinate's report, Sun Qiang looked at the old master with a strange expression. Is the old master capable of casting magic? Initially, Du Miaoshuan wasn't respectful at all and his tone wasn't polite either. Yet, after an insult, the other party was frightened out of his wits and kneeled down immediately. In fact, he even refused to be chased out. If he hadn't seen it for himself, he would have thought that it was nonsense. But the facts were laid clearly before him, he has no choice but to believe it. Is your family doing well? Touch your wife, you are a beast. Looks like master teachers like to speak in such a manner, Sun Qiang concluded based on his experience with the old master. Putting aside this Du Miaoshuan, Ling Tianyu seemed to be the same as well. Back then, when he broke the Jade Lion, the billionaire was filled with rage. In the end, the old master simply asked, "Is your family doing well?" before going ahead to request to touch the other party's wife. Looks like master teachers don't like to go about doing things the normal way. Instead, they preferred to beat around the bush and exaggerate matters. Yet, this method seemed to be extremely useful. Looks like these merchants and elders have to be dealt with the stick instead of the carrot. Maybe I should give it a try in the future. Sun Qiang's eyes lit up. In his view, the reason why Du Miaoshuan switched his attitude so quickly was because the old master got angry. Seems that in future, when he meets such people, he shouldn't act subserviently. Instead, he should speak imposingly and authoritatively. Only through this way can he instill respect in the other party. After all, wasn't Elder Du frightened to the point of kneeling down? Sun Qiang's thoughts became increasingly fertile. Next time, when the old master isn't around, I should give it a try. If it really works, the old master's impression of me might improve, Sun Qiang thought excitedly. Let them kneel. Not aware of what his butler had come up with in the blink of an eye, Zhang Xian casually gestured. Old master, what do we do now? Sun Qiang asked. Zhang Xian frowned. That was also what he was thinking. He couldn't just rely on the money others present to him in gratitude. Taking Ling Tianyu as an example, even though he gave 1 million in a single go, Zhang Xian is still a long way off from reaching 20 million. But if he were to open his mouth to request for money, it would be unbefitting of his identity as a master teacher. Others would simply label him as a fraud. If he refused money and simply waited for others to thank him, how much could he earn? What if the other party thought that he, as a master teacher, cared not for material wealth but instead valued relationships heavily? Wouldn't he cry himself to death? After contemplating for some time, Zhang Xian spoke, I will be going out for a moment. There's no need for you to follow me. Instead, you need to do something for me. At which, Zhang Xian explained his plan in detail to him. Hearing his words, the butler widened his eyes in shock. This works too. Go. Zhang Xian explained no further and urged him along. Yes. After the previous few incidents, he understood that the old master has his reasons for doing things. Thus, he didn't ask excessively and turned around to leave. A short while later, he returned again. Clearly, he had arranged everything that Zhang Xian delegated him. If anyone comes knocking, have them wait at the door. After instructing so, Zhang Xian walked out of the mansion. At the gates, he didn't even spare a glance at the kneeling Du Miaoshuan before walking away. Father, seeing that Yang Shi had no intentions of bothering himself with them, Du Yuan panicked and called his father. Since the other party had already left, what use was it for him to be kneeling here? I am not doing this just to show Yang Shi. This is also to display my determination on this matter and my reflection on my mistakes. If I were to leave now, I would probably be left stuck with my problem for life. Knowing what his son was thinking of, Du Miaoshuan explained. I got it. Du Yuan lowered his head in depression. For an elder of the Du clan, an ex-contender for the clan head position to be kneeling in the middle of a street, what is this? Chapter 143, Fetching Money, did you hear? When Lord Ling sought the old master to treat his wife, he took out 1 million gold coins in one go. He sure is generous. At this moment, suppressed mutterings could be heard in the courtyard. It appeared to be the guards of the mansion. After seeing the old master leave the mansion, they started to gossip among themselves. "A million? Is that for real?" The other guard was clearly skeptical. "Of course it's real, I saw it myself." "It is definitely real. 1,000,000 gold coins might be an astronomical sum to us, but it means nothing to a master teacher like the old master. I heard brother Sun say that the old master only accepted it to ease the other party's mind. He didn't want him to feel like he owed him a favor." The first guard said. "Now that you mention it, I recall that Lord Ling had also kneeled here for a night. Initially, the old master was unwilling to bother with him, but after he stuffed a sum to brother Sun, out of benevolence, helped to speak up for him, and only then did he manage to enter," the second guard replied. The words of the two were hushed, but they were separated by only a small gate from the street. Yuan's cultivation realm was low, so he could be unable to hear their conversation clearly, but those words echoed in Xuan's ears distinctly. "Yuaner, get up. Return to the clan now and bring all my savings here." Xuan's eyes lit up. He was streetwise and full of experience, but that was limited to sparring, battles and logical debates. In terms of bribery and gifting, could not compare to a businessman. Previously, he hadn't thought of offering the other party money, but hearing those words, he was immediately enlightened. That's right. Even though master teachers don't accept money because of their identity, butlers are willing to accept it. The mansion, the servants, food, and drink, which of it didn't require money? Even a physician had to be paid after consulting him. It would be weird if the other party was welcoming since he had come empty-handed. All right. Yuan did not understand what was going on, but hearing father's words, he stood up immediately. "I've heard that brother Sun was reprimanded by the old master because of the matter. It seems that Lord Ling had offended the old master by doubting his identity previously. A master teacher's prestige must not be sullied. To plead with him using just 1,000,000 gold coins, how would he be able to uphold his reputation in the future? The old master said that that was a one-time-off matter, and it mustn't happen again. Truthfully speaking, 1,000,000 gold coins is truly like the heavens to us. Yet, to the old master, it wasn't even worth a plea." The first guard spoke. "Indeed. When I passed by the front courtyard, I heard some people talking about it. I thought that they were lying," the second one continued. "Outside. Wait a moment." Before Yuan could leave, his father's voice echoed in his ear once more. "Dig out those precious pills that I bought recently and sell them all. Also, bring over those savage beast skins that I had accumulated over the years together with the money." "Father," Yuan was taken aback. What was going on with father? Bringing the money, selling his possessions, of course it's real. I have asked brother Sun on the matter personally. He said that when Lord Ling passed the 1,000,000 gold coins over, the old master didn't even take a glance at it. The reason why he treated her was because Lord Ling's wife was on the verge of death and saving someone brings one good karma. If the one who came over to plead with him was healthy, lively, and able to execute battle techniques, he definitely would ignore him. The voice of the first guard sounded. "Ah." Xuan began to shake. Clenching his jaws, he continued to command Yuan, "Sell that sword of mine as well. Also, wasn't the third elder interested in taking over my businesses? Talk to him. As long as he is willing to pay, all of those businesses shall be his." "Father," those were already father's greatest chips within the clan. "If he were to sell them all, what will happen in the future?" Yuan was stupefied. "Hurry up." Xuan urged him. Observing the stern expression on his father's face, Yuan dared not to retort. He turned around to leave at once. The fact that he was able to execute a battle technique showed that his body is all right. He definitely has a screw loose to doubt a master teacher. The second guard chastised. Even though the old master didn't care not for wealth, that person didn't even bring a single gold coin with him. Without offering anything, he wanted the old master to exert effort to offer him pointers. Wasn't he daydreaming? Xuan gritted his teeth. Also, bring you and your mother's savings over as well. Yuan staggered in his footsteps, nearly bursting into tears. From the looks of it, his father's is already completely deranged. The conversation between the two guards was exactly what Zhang Xian delegated Sun Chang. Without reminding the other party, how long would it take for them to send the money over? In any case, those were words of the guards and it had nothing to do with him at all. They did not dare to accuse a master teacher of being a money grubber either. As expected of the old master. Even after doing someone in, he wants him to pay up. Back when Sun Chang received the task from the old master, he also was speechless. From the very start, the other party would have given substantial rewards to the old master to thank him for offering him his guidance. However, it was uncertain how much the sum would be. After hearing the conversation between the two guards, who would dare to be stingy? To be able to think of a way to earn more money without sullying his prestige, to scam others without dirtying his hands too scheming. Initially, just like other people, he thought that the old master did not care for money. From the looks of it, a master teacher is still human and had their own expenses to upkeep. Leaving the residence and darting into a remote alley, Zhang Xian removed his disguise completely. It was exhausting to have kept the disguise on for the entire day. The guild should be done preparing the Meridian Rejuvenation Pill and the Body Nourishment Medicinal Solution. I should first get them for Wang Ying and Lu Yang. His purpose for disguising himself as a master teacher to earn money was for this. For the time being, he is unable to obtain the Unravel-ine Pill and the Colossal Rhinoceros Blood, but these other two items were easy to obtain. Stepping into the Apothecary Guild, the two items were indeed ready. As for the remaining two, guild leader Ouyang had already sent an application and the headquarters would send it over from another branch. Apothecary guilds can be found in all large kingdoms. There were pills and treasures that Tianxian Kingdom didn't possess, but that didn't mean that the other kingdoms didn't have them. As long as they send a request to the headquarters, the goods would be transported from the closest kingdom with stocks. This way, the delivery process was sped up. Otherwise, given how far the headquarters is from here, 10 days are too short for them to bring it here. Paying 1 million as a deposit, he obtained the two items successfully. Right, Guild leader Ouyang, do you have breath-forging pills? Can you get me some? After housing the two objects in his storage ring, Zhang Xian asked. Breath-forging pill is something extremely useful for Fighter 1 Danjushi realm initiates. If Wang Ying and the others were to consume it, their training speed should be boosted significantly. I forged quite a bit of them previously and I still have a few remaining. I can give them to you right away. Guild leader Ouyang smiled and passed 2 jade bottles over. Upon receiving the jade bottle, he looked inside and saw that there were dozens of pills in each bottle. Zhang Xian understood that the other party was expressing his goodwill and it wasn't pleasant to reject him. As such, he nodded his head and accepted it. Even though the quality of the breath-forging pill wasn't exceptionally high, it was nevertheless a grade 1 pill. Every single pill costs tens of thousands, yet guild leader Ouyang shared dozens of them in a single go generously. Chapter 144, Spear Expert. If it were any other one-star apothecaries, even if they were friends, it was impossible for him to be so generous. However, Zhang Xian was simply too incredible. He was able to rival all the other apothecaries with his words, and regardless of whether it was pill forging, herbs, he was perfect in nearly every single aspect, as though there was no way whatsoever to defeat him in the pill debate, leaving everyone speechless in his wake. Relying on just this ability, he would surely be able to rise to incredible heights if granted sufficient time. This gesture of goodwill was, in a way, an investment for the future. After keeping the breath-forging pills, Zhang Xian suddenly recalled something and inquired, Guild leader Ouyang, do you know anywhere that sells secret manuals on spearmanship? Wang Ying had the body-nourishing medicinal solution, whereas Lu Yang had the Meridian Rejuvenation Pill. The Unravel-ine Pill and the Colossus Rhinoceros Blood had not arrived, but when Xiaoye and Yuan Tao consume it and awaken their constitution, their cultivation realm would definitely soar significantly. Of his 5 students, he only lacked a solution for Zheng Yang. Zheng Yang specialized in the way of the spear, and Xuan had looked for someone who was even more proficient than him to be his opponent. If he doesn't search for some powerful moves to impart to him, he could possibly become the weakest link. He had looked through the books in the teacher's compendium pavilion, and there were some books on battle techniques, but very few relating to spears. That was also the reason why Wang Chao Laoshi was so popular. Countless spear practitioners come applying to the academy in admiration of his name. Since Wang Chao was able to give Mo Xiao to Xuan, the two must share an exceptional relationship. In that case, it wasn't a viable option for him to visit him to ask him about the way of the spear. At the same time, he did not know anything about the spear. Thus, he could only ask around to see if there were any secret manuals on spearmanship sold in the capital. Secret manuals on spearmanship? You wish to learn the way of the spear? Guild leader looked at Zhang Xian in astonishment. Apothecaries are highly esteemed in society. Instead of learning pill forging, why are you learning the way of the spear instead? Zhang Xian nodded his head. Spearmanship is relatively uncommon compared to swordsmanship, and there are significantly fewer people who learn it. There are even fewer who manage to become masters of the art. I just happen to be acquainted with one. His family heritage is of the spear and his skills are incredibly powerful and profound. He is famous for his spearmanship, even when considering the entire capital. Ouyang Cheng stroked his beard and chuckled. Oh. Can you bring me to learn from him? Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. This person is often holed up inside his house, he rarely meets with outsiders and doesn't easily impart his spearmanship to others. However, I am a good friend of his, so perhaps he might sell me this favor. Ouyang Cheng said. Then I'll be troubling guild leader Ouyang for this. Knowing that the other party was trying to strike up connections, Zhang Xian nodded his head and secretly decided to guide him in his pill forging whenever he gets the chance to. Let's go, I'll bring you to meet with this old friend of mine. Seeing that the other person understood his intent, Ouyang Cheng nodded his head in satisfaction. After leaving the apothecary guild, the two of them walked for nearly an hour before arriving at a residence. As Ouyang Cheng was good buddies with the master of the residence, the guards did not obstruct his path and they were able to enter the residence smoothly. Guild leader Ouyang, please wait a moment. My old master is still training, he will be out in a moment. The butler brought them to a small gazebo and said. It'll do for him to look for me after he finishes his training. Guild leader Ouyang knew of the other party's habits and gestured with his hand to show that he wasn't bothered by it. Then, he beckoned to Zhang Xian, Apothecary Zhang, come and sit. All right. Zhang Xian sat down and surveyed the surroundings. The courtyard was large and the renovations were simple but elegant, creating a tranquil atmosphere. There were no servants or attendants in sight in the entire courtyard. It seemed like the owner of the residence wasn't an extravagant person. My friend is called Wang Chong. We were acquainted over 20 years ago and he had immersed himself in the way of the spear for his entire life. In terms of spearmanship, he is definitely one of the top figures in the entire Tianxian kingdom. Emperor Shenjue had even once complimented his spearmanship as peerless. Sipping on his tea, Ouyang Cheng introduced the owner of the residence. Incredible. Zhang Xian had always held respect toward those who were able to reach the pinnacle of their occupation. Regardless of the occupation, to be able to emerge on top of thousands and thousands of people showed their determination and talent. Old Ouyang, are you talking bad about me behind my back again? Halfway through their conversation, a bright voice sounded. Then, an elderly walked over with widened strides. Even though he looked 50 or so, his body nevertheless appeared to be brimming with strength, as though he had a boundless supply of energy. He was dressed in a training robe and grabbed a spear in one hand. Just like the butler said, he was probably in the midst of his training and came over without even changing his clothes. Talking bad behind your back? I'm not that bored so as to do so. Ouyang Cheng stood up smiling. Judging from their tones, Zhang Xian could tell that they were close friends. That's more like it. How do you have the time to look for me today? Wang Chong stepped into the gazebo and caught sight of Zhang Xian. Perplexed, he asked, is this your junior? Cough cough. Cheng nearly spat his tea out. An awkward expression appeared on his face. The heck, he is my junior. I want to fawn over him so that he can guide me with my pill forging. You saying that he is my junior nearly sent all of my efforts down the drain. Secretly sneaking Zhang Xian a glance and confirming that he wasn't angry, he heaved a sigh of relief. Afraid that his old friend would say anything worse, he hurriedly introduced, let me introduce you to him. This is the newest one-star apothecary of our guild, Zhang Xian. One-star apothecary? Wang Chong was surprised for a moment before feeling shocked. As an old friend of Cheng, he knew very well how difficult the apothecary examination was. Seeing how young the other party was, he initially thought that Zhang Xian was Cheng's junior. The thought that he was an official apothecary didn't even occur to him. It was something inconceivable to him. Even the butler by the side was astonished. Not just so, Apothecary Zhang got promoted through pill debate. Single-handedly, he left 10 apothecaries speechless. In the field of pill forging, there isn't a single person in the entire capital who is more knowledgeable than him. Cheng continued. Pill debate? Wang Chong was flabbergasted. Even though he wasn't an apothecary, he had heard of such an examination method from guild leader Ouyang's himself. For a fellow who wasn't even 20 years of age to become an apothecary through pill debate, even though the fact was lying right before him, he found it difficult to accept. Guild leader Ouyang is being too generous, I just happen to possess a little bit of knowledge. In terms of pill forging, I am still a rookie, Zhang Xian hurriedly said. He was speaking of the truth. The reason why he was able to succeed in the pill debate was because of the Library of Heaven's Path. If he were to really dabble in pill forging, it was likely that he would be unable to forge even the easiest pills. The three men chatted for a while longer after that. Zhang Xian knew that Cheng was complimenting him before Wang Chong intentionally to leave a good impression of him on Wang Chong. This way, it would be more likely for the Wang Chong to impart him the way of the spear. Indeed, after the banter, Cheng smiled, actually, I have something I need to trouble you with. Oh. Wang Chong's looked at Cheng. It's like that. Apothecary Zhang highly appreciates the way of the spear. If Brother Wang has the time, you two can exchange views. Cheng said. Oh. So Apothecary Zhang is a spear expert as well? That's great. Hearing those words, Wang Chong's eyes lit up in excitement. He was a spear fanatic and loved pitting himself against other spear experts. For Zhang Xian to have become an official apothecary at such a young age, he probably possessed superior talent. How could he not be excited to spar with him? I cough cough, I have never learned spearmanship before. Upon seeing that the other party was determined to duel with him, an awkward look appeared on Zhang Xian's face. Chapter 145, Heaven's Path Spear Art. His previous self had expended all of his effort and attention into raising his cultivation realm, allowing him to reach the Jinqi realm at an exceptionally young age. As such, he had never come into contact with spearmanship. Naturally, the current him who was a true blue earthling had never come into contact with it either. Have never learned before? Wang Chong was taken aback. If he had never learned spearmanship, what views could they exchange? A strange expression also appeared on Cheng's face. Hearing that Zhang Xian wanted to learn spearmanship, he thought that he possessed at least a certain level of foundation in the art. That was also the reason why he termed it exchanging views instead of learning from him. In that way, Zhang Xian would be able to retain some dignity, just to think that he had never learned spearmanship. Awkward. If only he knew that he hadn't learned spearmanship previously, he would have just directed him to any random spearmanship teacher. There wouldn't be a need to trouble his old friend. The situation is like this. I have a student who wants to study spearmanship, so I would like to learn a few moves now and teach him." Seeing that everyone's gaze was on him, Zhang Xian could only reveal his motive. "Learn a few moves now. Teach someone else." Wang Chong staggered backward and nearly fainted from astonishment. "Are you joking?" As the saying goes, a month with the stave, a year with the saber, and a lifetime with the spear. Countless people had embarked on spearmanship from young, only to be unable to become a true initiate for their entire life. "You haven't even learned the slightest thing, yet you intend to teach your student. Aren't you being too gutsy? Or do you think that spearmanship is easy?" In an instant, Wang Chang's face darkened. The favorable impression he had of Zhang Xian fell apart. He had been training in the way of the spear for his entire life and already regarded the spear as an essential part of his life. He hated it when others belittled his art. Yet, this fellow hadn't even learned a single about it but intended to go about muddling his students. That was truly an insult to the way of the spear. If not for his respect for the other party's identity as a one-star apothecary and for his old friend Ouyang's dignity, he would have thrown him out. Suppressing his displeasure, he stated, "Spearmanship is hard to practice and learn. It is an impossible task to achieve anything significant in a short period of time. If you were to teach others without fully grasping the art, it is likely that you misguide them." His voice was steeled. Noticing the displeasure on the other party's face, Zhang Xian knew that it was probably impossible for him to learn spearmanship directly from the other party. After a moment of hesitation, he asked, "How about this? Does Brother Wang have any books regarding spearmanship here? If so, can you allow me to browse through them?" "Browse through books?" Wang Chong frowned. Spearmanship is a type of battle technique and every single movement requires the guidance and correction of an expert, as well as the refinement over a lengthy period of time. If one could learn that easily by reading books, one wouldn't have to train that hard. However, even though he was skeptical of Zhang Xian's purpose, upon witnessing him give up on his previous intentions, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Sure, I have a lot of such books here. It is also good for you to learn about how profound spearmanship is so that you won't be so reckless. I'll bring you over." As a spear master, nearly every single book on spearmanship that was in the kingdom was in his possession. As long as his family's secret spear technique wasn't leaked, it wasn't really a big deal for him to allow outsiders to browse through those fundamental books. "Thank you." Zhang Xian hurriedly nodded his head. Spear arts, just like all other battle techniques, needed long hours of refinement in order for the form and the essence of the skill to shine through. However, Zhang Xian was different. As long as he had sufficient books, he was able to create a powerful and concise spear art that was easy to learn. "This is my study. I have almost all spear-related books in Tianxian Kingdom in here, as well as some exclusive collections." As the trio reached the study, Wang Chong gestured majestically with a proud expression. He had paid quite a hefty sum to gather all of these books. These books had also helped to augment his spearmanship, bringing it to greater heights. Looking inward, Zhang Xian saw 7 to 8 entire bookshelves filled with all kinds of books elaborating on every single aspect of spearmanship. "Ouyang, it has been long since you last came. Let's go grab a drink." Knowing that Zhang Xian would take some time to read through some books, Wang Chong did not intend to wait here for him. Instead, he beckoned Ouyang Cheng toward another room. "All right." Ouyang Cheng said, and the two of them walked out. "I should begin." Watching them leave, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief, walked up to a bookshelf and started flipping through the books. Walla-la-la. The sound of books flipping started to echo in the room and all sort of books on spearmanship formed in his mind. Some of these books were on the very fundamentals, some of them detailed common moves and some of them were just basic introductions. All in all, there were truly all kinds of books on spearmanship that one could possibly imagine in here. As expected of a spear master, his collection was truly abundant. Flipping through the books continuously, he soon imprinted into his mind all the 8 bookshelves of books in the study, which added up to a total of a few thousand books, within an hour. Standing quietly on the spot, Zhang Xian started to digest the newly compiled books in his mind. The correct training method, his mind jolted, and all of the books on spearmanship melded together to form a single book before him. He started flipping through it. Weapons are an extension of the arm. Only by training it to become a part of your arm can one be considered to be a true initiate. Spearmanship is the same as well. The spear art created by the Library of Heaven's Path through compiling so many books was incredibly profound and gave one the feeling of enlightenment. While looking through it, Zhang Xian used his finger in place of a spear to practice its moves. Hu hu hu. From time to time, with the augmentation of Jinqi, his finger would pierce through the air menacingly. It was as though his body had become the spear itself, and at any moment now, he would pierce through the heavens. The spear was termed as the king of weapons. To become a true expert, one had to have the disposition of one capable of piercing through the heavens. Without numerous storms and the accumulation of experiences over time, it was impossible to forge such a disposition. If someone were to notice the current Zhang Xian, they would definitely yell in exclamation. That was because the current Zhang Xian already possessed the disposition. Even though it couldn't be determined whether his spearmanship had reached a high level of mastery, just the aura he was exuding was sufficient to crush the confidence of countless cultivators, destroying their will to fight. Fully immersed in the book, Zhang Xian was completely oblivious to these changes. Instead, he continued emulating the movements with his hands. Tzzzzzz. Burst after burst of Jinqi shot out along the trajectory of his fingers and impacted the floor, creating countless holes on it. It was fortunate that he had kept his strength in check. Otherwise, Wang Chang's study would probably be wrecked just like Master Lu Chen's. After an unknown period of time, Zhang Xian finally stopped and exhaled turbid air. I'm already done cultivating it. His eyes lit up. In just a moment's time, he had already practiced the entire sequence of the spear art compiled in the library once. I'll call it Heaven's Path Spear Art. Wang. The book jolted and a name appeared on it, Heaven's Path Spear Art. It's a pity that there are too few books and too many mistakes in them. I only managed to create a single move. Zhang Xian lamented. The books were all on the basics of spearmanship. The Library of Heaven's Path compiled all of the correct theories and created a spear art from it. I wonder to what extent will this move augment my strength, and how much strength I would be able to execute through it. Even though it was just a single move, he knew that it was impossible for it to be anything simple, especially after experiencing the Heaven's Path Divine Art and the Heaven's Path Golden Body. His fighting prowess would definitely be boosted significantly if he were to execute it. I'll impart this to Zheng Yang when I return. The reason why he was here specially to learn spear art was so that he could impart it to Zheng Yang. Even though it was just a single move, at the very least, the journey he made here wasn't in vain. It could be imagined that if Zheng Yang were to fully grasp the skill, his spearmanship would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. By then, defeating that Mo Shao wouldn't pose any problem. All that came from the Heaven's Path had to be exceptional. There was no doubt about this. Time to go. After reading all the books and obtaining what he wanted, Zhang Xian did not dawdle in the study excessively and walked out with big strides.